Hey there, fellas. It's finally time. It's a much overdue. It feels like it's always overdue. For a Boys of Summer podcast. Eric, what is happening? Welcome in.
What's up? What's up, man? I'm excited. Always fun to talk some baseball. And yeah, hey, we're right at the 1/3 mark of the season. Not a bad little
Yeah.
spot to kind of do this here.
I know we probably would have wished we had maybe like a May podcast or something like that, but
Sure.
we're busy men these days. Life happens, and I know we don't have kids yet, and I know we can't really relate to Jordan and Tyler and Justin and all that with their children and the time they spend there. But man, the coaching season, we're now
Oh, yeah.
both baseball, softball coaches, so it's real. How was your first softball grind? Were you exhausted by the end of May?
Oh yeah, I was ready for it to be done. Oh yeah. By the end of it, I was definitely ready. A lot of bus rides, especially with how small of our school is. We pretty much have to go 45 minutes to an hour to any place we play. So definitely some long bus rides, long nights, but hey, it was a fun experience. So
Yeah, I can understand that. And I live an hour east of my place of work, and our entire conference is west. So we're the
oh,
east coast in our conference. So like everything we go further west. So yeah, I'm an hour or two away from my home every time we go anywhere.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah, we had one week here where we played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And that was like 4 weeks ago. I was absolutely dead. I didn't even know what
yeah.
plan I had late into that week of playing 7 games in 6 days. But that's the grind. So we sign up for. We do it for the kids.
Yeah, that's
So
one thing I will say about softball, which is nice, is we don't really have as many Saturdays because
that's
we
good.
do have a lot of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday weeks because we can throw the same pitcher again and again and again. I think they kind of
Yeah.
spread out baseball a little bit more because of pitch counts. So I'm really glad we didn't have too many Saturdays going on this year. So
Yeah.
that's good. Baseball, on the other hand, is a whole nother story.
Speaking of kids and speaking of Saturdays, those are reserved for the boys. The boys of summer. We have some podcasts to talk about. We got some trades to talk about. League landscape, some risers, some fallers in the power rankings. A lot of movers, a lot of updates in our power rankings. Before we get into that, let's talk big picture because we haven't really gotten to talk about baseball as a whole, and a lot of us are wrapped up in fantasy and wrapped up with a lot, and some of us chime in some of our thoughts on the league in the group chat and stuff, but. Overall as a whole, let's peek over at these standings here. Anything that's jumping out to you? Anything surprising from a team standpoint in the in Major League Baseball?
In the AL, I would probably say I know they didn't address some of the needs in the offseason. I know they lost Corbin Burns, but I don't think anyone really expected the Orioles to still be that bad with that young nucleus they have. I mean, they got just loaded with young talent. I know a lot of people expected the Red Sox to take that jump this year, so I'd say I'm a little surprised in the AL East. I thought the Red Sox were going to be around a fourth place team, but um, a little surprised in the Orioles for sure.
You would
In
think that
terms
their
of the AL.
offense would have been great, and then they're like, oh well, if we'll see what their pitching is, and if they need pitching, then they'll have the pieces to address it if they need to. But like, no, that's not the case at all. Their offense has been pretty bad, and then
Awful. Yeah,
their
I think the
pitching
third
is
least
brutal. They
amount of
haven't
runs
done
scored.
anything.
Yeah, no, it's been brutal, and obviously some injuries and stuff haven't helped them at all. But I'm also a little surprised. Again, I guess I can't say I'm shocked anymore. But the Tigers making the World Series, or almost making the World Series last year, and still being as good as they are, I'm totally bought in on them now. Like that's just a damn good baseball team. I mean, it just really is. I mean,
Uh,
the
Jordan's been
rotation they have,
good.
the young players they have, the nucleus they have. I'd be looking at the Tigers as a team to maybe make a deadline move to really kind of push their chips all in for sure.
What do they need? Yeah, they probably need a
um,
second pitcher, right?
Yeah, they could. I mean, you can never have enough pitching come playoff time. I mean, again, we're still only at that 1/3 mark, a little bit past the one
Weird
third
because
mark.
like they don't have anything. Like they have one stud pitcher. They don't have a closer who's like their great bat in the middle of their lineup that's like driving in RBIs at any point. Like I'm not really sure like what the Tigers are like. They could improve just about everything across their roster, which is kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think they're just a really balanced, good team all the way around. I
Mhm.
think obviously Javi Baez has been big this year. Torkelson's kind of had a little bit of a bounce back. Riley Green, I think Riley Green's a superstar. I mean, I really do. I mean, he came up as like a top five prospect in baseball. I think he's still only what 24, 25 years old. I think Riley Green needs to be talked about a lot more. Riley
Mhm.
Green's a stud. So
Man,
um,
I'm looking at this roster and I am not impressed.
even Gleyber Torres, that's been one of the better pickups in the offseason. Gleyber Torres has been good. Reese Olson's been good.
Mhm.
I'm only naming guys on my fantasy team, but
Yeah,
hey.
ironically. I think my biggest surprise, other than the Cubs showing out and playing as well as they have and being the number one team in baseball right now, yeah, that's
number
been.
two, number two,
Are they a half game? Who are they behind? Oh, in the National
Tigers.
League. number one in the National League.
Yes.
Let's see, they lead in the league in run differential? Yes, they are still leading. Oh no, the Yankees are up to plus 98. Oh, they're one you run behind the Yankees. Bummer. But I think the biggest storyline here is the AL West has been very interesting because you have Seattle, who Justin Turner, I think was it, or somebody came out and was like, why have they not addressed any of their
Yeah.
needs, like on offense? And they're leading the division. The Astros, I feel like we've been talking about how bad they are all year and how their lineup sucks. And they're meanwhile a half game out of first, still 5 games over 500. You have the Rangers who can't score on anybody, and we thought they would be kind of exciting with all their new
Yeah.
high
Simeon's
upside
been rough.
bats. And
Simeon
you
and
know,
Steger, their offense is
Seager,
just their
Langford,
pitching's been fine.
Adolis Garcia, Simeon, all of them, they've been underperforming. You have the
Yeah.
Angels. We didn't really know what to think of them. They're probably right where we expect them to be, but I expected more out of the Athletics as well.
Yeah.
And I thought they would be better, but then they won one game in the last nine. I think they lost 10 in a row. And I kind of liked some of the offensive pieces they put together, and the rotation looked okay, and the bullpen looked okay. And I thought they would be better than they actually were. I think a lot of people did, and that's been a little bit
Yeah.
disappointing. So it's kind of a curious case there. You had mentioned the Reds probably underperforming a little bit.
I
They're
think so.
not
If I had to pick a team that I think is going to compete with the Cubs throughout the season, I do think it's the Reds. I just think they have a lot of young players coming up. I think their pitching's pretty solid. Terry Francona, I don't think ever finishes below 500. So I would say the Cardinals have been surprising me because I really thought they'd be pretty brutal again.
Mhm.
They went on that big win streak that's kept their season pretty good, but um, yeah, I would say overall those kind of been. I think the Giants have been pretty surprising, hanging tough in the West. I like the moves they made in the offseason, but I knew the West was very, very tough, and I just didn't think they had enough offense
Just they're
to.
doing Giants things of just like you look at the
Yeah,
roster and they're like, I mean, they're okay, but then all of a sudden they're like, oh, they're 7 games above 500.
yeah. Ramos is really good. I think Lee has really bounced back this year.
Yeah.
People kind of forgot about him with the injury last year. So,
I would be remiss if we didn't mention the 9-50 Colorado
oh my
Rockies that are
God,
on pace for, is that on pace for 27 wins basically?
yeah,
Absolutely incredible. I mean, the probability, odds of it actually happening, of losing that many games and not eking out a few wins here and there is mind-blowing in
brutal.
baseball. Like, yeah, a football team can be pretty bad and wouldn't, we've seen 1-15 and 2-16 or 2-15 football teams and all that. But even kind of similar to basketball, like in basketball, any team can get hot in a night and win a couple games. Even the
Yeah,
worst teams in the NBA still win 10 to 20 games. And baseball is kind of like the sport where you expect the most variability and the most variance, where like bad teams can still beat good teams 1 out of 3 times. But man,
and I
nine.
just couldn't imagine being part of that team. Like you said, at least football, you play once a week. Oh, we suck. At least we got one game a week. If you're on the Rockies roster and you're playing 5, 6 games a week, I could not imagine the morale, the feelings. Just how do you keep that? How do you just keep that going? Like I find it tough just in high school dealing with a couple. I could not imagine being 9-50 at that level. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's man, I would love to be a fly on the wall in that clubhouse, just understand like what's going on. Like, how do you hold anybody accountable when you're 9-50? How do you like go into the batting cage and grind for an hour or two and be like, I'm really going to try my best, knowing like I'm doing this for my teammates? How like that 50-50 ball, like do you lay out? Do you put your body on the line for that 50-50 ball,
Right.
like, knowing you could hurt yourself, cost yourself a paycheck, this and that. So yeah, it's man, I don't know how you fix that culture, but it's like it's White Sox culture is what it is of the last
Damn
couple.
right.
So they've just taken it to 100 and said we're just gonna, take that to the max. So we have, I think, covered. I think it covers all the major MLB storylines. Hopefully,
Go
Jack
Cubs.
comes up and hits 50 bombs the rest of the year. Not a
Yeah.
lot of rookies. I do want to come over to like the player odds here. ESPN article from May 27th, kind of outlining the different odds here. I mean, Otani and Judge has been great. They've been exactly everything they've been hyped up to be, maybe even and
Look at
more.
the Judge odds too. I mean, that's nuts. I
I
mean,
know. Stepping up. Bobby Witt has like 6 home runs on the year.
yeah. I mean, he really is. Aaron Judge really is having like we always thought he couldn't get any better, and he really is. I mean, it's insane.
Devers
Yeah.
isn't going to put up Judge numbers, but I can't imagine anybody actually voting for Devers after everything this offseason. How is Christian Walker
Yeah.
100-1 with how poorly he's played? That's that's why I
He
think that
must have done something recently. Yeah.
yeah, that really goes to
Even Gunnar Henderson is still 100-1. Look at that.
yeah. Yeah, and he's been garbage, hot garbage. And then the weird thing is we have not seen a lot of great rookie performances. I know you have love for Jacob Wilson here. Jack Caglione hasn't even played yet, and he's second in AL Rookie of the Year voting or odds right now. Baldwin, Ramirez, Shaw, like all those guys have been okay. Baldwin's been the best hitter. Ramirez had a hot stretch the first week he came up, hasn't maintained that. He's been okay. He's been serviceable, but I don't even know who this Chad Patrick is. I've never even heard that name before. Um, Bubba Chandler hasn't even debuted yet. It's just we haven't really seen a whole lot of breakout rookies
No,
either. And
no,
really,
definitely not.
that's made a
And
lot of
usually in the
impact.
sport, which the last few years, it's trended that way where we have seen a lot of young guys come up earlier than ever
Yeah.
and make impacts earlier than ever. It is kind of an interesting year where that's not happening. Yeah.
Well, people always said too, like more and more that the gap between AAA and the majors is bigger than it's ever been. And
Yeah.
then then some years we have it's like where guys come up, rookies come up and either start the year or a month in and just rake and perform well. And we're
Well,
not seeing that.
not to go too off topic, but I have read a couple articles recently too, where Major League Baseball has been trimming down the minor league systems over the last couple of years, and
Mhm.
there's even talk of getting rid of another single A level, getting rid of instead of having a low A and a high A, getting rid of another level. So I think really what a lot of teams have talked about is they're calling dudes up younger than ever, and they're less developed than ever because the minor league system's shrinking and getting smaller. So I really wonder how that impacts Major League Baseball in the next
Yeah.
5, 10 years and stuff like that. But who knows if we're starting to see a little bit of an effect of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Could have long-reaching ramifications of that.
Cy
Um,
Young, though, Screwball, right? Screwball, and that's
yeah,
about it.
I'm surprised Skeens is still the favorite because his strikeout numbers are not what they are, and he's not
I
doesn't.
think if Yamamoto didn't miss a few starts, he'd be up there because Yamamoto is, I would argue, Yamamoto is almost more disgusting than Skeens. I mean, his stuff is just filthy, filthy.
Yeah.
I mean, that splitter is probably one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen from Yamamoto. But
What's the Skeens stats compared to Wheeler?
I'm not sure.
Let's pull these guys up because I'm surprised that Skeens has outperformed Wheeler in a way. Let's see here. We'll go all here. We'll go to score. Shout out Fantrax for having always just what we need from a player
It's
that
always interesting how MVP always. Yeah. And it's always interesting how MVP, you seem to always have to be on a good team and make the playoffs. But Cy Young, they're like, nah,
yeah.
you can be on the Pirates. It's fine.
Yeah.
We're good.
Let's see here. So Skeens, 77 strikeouts. They actually over a strikeout inning. They've made it seem like his strikeout numbers are lower than that. 2.15 ERA, .91 whip, and 9 wins quality starts. Zach
Yeah,
Wheeler has
elite. And remember, it was about this time last year when he got called up, and you said his value will never be higher than right now.
yeah. Yeah, I was wrong. I got to eat crow on that one. Yeah, so Wheeler's got 17 more strikeouts, but point 0.8 higher ERA, the same whip, and one more win quality starts. But I know the Cy Young voters, they like wins. And Wheeler only has 6 wins. Interesting. You'd think on the plan on the Phillies, they'd have a
I would
few
say
more.
I'd vote for Skeens at that point with the ERA differential being that significant. So
2 more wins. So Skeens only has 4 wins, but yeah, I feel like at this point, I mean, what's 20 strikeouts when your ERA is you prevented a lot more runs than Wheeler has. So yeah, I think you probably have to go that direction too. Fried has been been a lot of really good pitching performances, but that's like usually to be expected this time of year. Of usually through spring through May, before the weather gets nice and hot as it is in Chicago here in high 91 today. Ball's gonna be flying out of Wrigley tomorrow here. But usually the pitchers are always ahead of the hitters to start the year, and then the hitters catch up throughout the year once they get their timing. Once the ball heats up, once it gets nice
yeah,
and humid, the ball starts traveling a little bit better. So that
even a guy like Rodon. I mean, I've Rodon having the season he's having bounce. I mean,
Mhm.
we both said pitching in New York, Fried might take a little bit of a step back.
Yeah,
Rodon, and then here they
never
are
like
just
Yankees
killing it,
pitchers.
killing it. So
Yeah, and so overall league landscape wise, I know as a guy who's been looking to trade pitching for hitting and feeling like my hitting's not good enough, it's been tough because I feel like overall I've been trying to get some home runs and some RBIs for a while, and I haven't been able to get them. And I've had some pitching to move, and unfortunately some of them took a hit a little bit recently with King and Reagan's going on IL, so I haven't had the surplus I've had. But um, it's been tough. I feel like nobody really wants to get rid of their bats because they know that the market kind of is favored the hit offense more than the pitching. Have you kind of experienced the same?
yeah, I'd say for the most part, I haven't gotten in a ton of trade discussions outside of the couple
Yeah.
trades I've made. I haven't been trying to make too many moves because I like my roster, but it does seem like people are trying to get pitchers. I mean, and again, I say it every year: the waiver wire is dry. When you get to May, when you get to June at this time of the year, you're really for the most part just taking shots on guys and saying, well, they had one good start, maybe they can maybe I'll pick them up and they'll get a few more for me. But waiver wire is pretty tough at this point. So I think everyone's always, you can
So you
never have
think
enough
it's easier to
pitching.
find a serviceable bat than a serviceable arm?
I would say so, yeah.
That's interesting because I guess a serviceable bat doesn't hurt you. Like if
Right.
an average bat plays poorly, it doesn't hurt you in a way that an average pitcher pitches poorly
Exactly.
does a lot
If
more.
you know that pitcher's getting you one start on the week and they give up 6, 7 runs, oh, and
Yeah,
your hitter has a 230 average with a 300 OBP and drove in 3 runs, not good. But
yeah.
like you said, it's not hurting you so much as that bad pitcher that comes in and blows the start. So I would definitely say there's more hitters usually available on the wire for sure.
Looking at these top pitchers here, these top starting pitchers. I mean, Schoolball's right where we thought he would be, right at the top there. I tried acquiring him at the start. I think I tried to trade Wheeler and a piece for Schoolball, and Bryce didn't want it, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Brown's been surprising. I mean, basically continued what he did at the end of last year and then
Yeah.
some. I didn't expect that. I thought he'd kind of regress back to the mean a little bit. Eovaldi, oh man, shout out to Eovaldi. Nobody wanted to back up Eovaldi. Everybody had something to say. Not this guy and not Phil. He's been a stalwart in his rotation. But then a lot of familiar names rounding out the list. And like Max Fried has been incredible, but this is kind of like peak Max Fried of where we expect him to be. Like when Max Fried is Max Fried, he's a borderline fringe 10, top 15 arm, and that's right where we find him here.
Yeah.
Any
No,
other surprises here in this on this list here?
um, I would say Robbie
Braun
Ray
actually
kind
having
of.
69 innings.
Yeah, Robbie Ray bouncing back to form is good to see. I think Abbott, I had Abbott last year. Even I'm surprised at how good he's done. Obviously, a lot less innings than some of these guys up there, but still pretty good. I think DeGrom's already gotten more innings than you would have liked, right? I mean,
Yep.
anything after this is
I'm
just
just
gravy,
yeah,
Mister
everything here is gravy.
Mister Rest of Season guy. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, a lot of names we kind of expected to see up here, but some others obviously performing really, really well.
Here's a name that needs some attention, that needs some love. Mackenzie Gold. You traded for him. Shouts to you. You
Always been a
so
big
glad to
Mackenzie
get
Gold
him.
fan.
But 101 strikeouts for Mackenzie Gord leads the league. I think he leads the league in total strikeouts and strikeout rate even. That was not something that I was expecting. Yeah, so he's tied with Crochet, and he's got a much better strikeout rate than Crochet
Yeah.
does.
And that
Yeah.
was at a point too. I'm sure we'll talk about the trade later, but that was just a point where I knew I needed strikeouts, and I'm like, well, why not go after the guy that is killing it in strikeouts? So
Well, and ironically, there's a team that really needs strikeouts from its pitching staff, and its name is Bryce.
yeah, yeah,
Looking back on it. From a hitting standpoint, as we're, a third of the way through the year, it's a good time to kind of look at these stats here. Do you want to read me that second name on the list there?
oh man, it's such a long name. I love to see it. Good old Petey Crow Armstrong killing it, man. Absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone. I don't think anyone. I think the most shocking thing, obviously, is the power. I mean, no one expected. I would have. I don't think anyone. I don't think I ever expected him to be more than a 20 home run bat. I mean, literally, I'm talking 10,
Yeah.
15. His whole career. I mean, that's kind of what we expected from him. So
I
I
thought
don't
best
know if
case
he
scenario was
really.
Jacob Wilson, who
Yeah,
stole bases.
and and truthfully, as a Cubs fan, I'm glad he's doing as great as he's doing. But I still don't ever see him as a 25, 30 home run guy.
Mhm.
Um, I, could he be around 25 each year? Yeah, but I do think we've seen a little bit of a surge. But I mean, we gotta love it. I mean, it's been he is so fun to watch. It's been amazing.
So you don't think he can just be Brenton Farron for the next 15 years?
No, not quite. I mean, he could be around there. 15 homers, 80 RBIs, 50 steals. Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, so I mean, Hayes obviously the biggest surprise on this list, especially in the top 10. James Wood having quite the year. Chad was keen on him. He spent up for it. He had to pay 30 for him, but
Yeah,
money well spent. The big
but
bumper, I sent Krim, I did send him an apology yesterday. I knew that the pod was today, but I wanted to get out in front of it. I apologized to Krim personally for how my treatment of the big dumper, Cal Raleigh, and his 30 or 23 home runs. 45 RBIs and 6 steals. I even remember making a statement that was like, "You will not get any steals from Cal Raleigh." And here he goes, turns around, and has 6 steals on top of his goddamn 23 homers. So I
hey, come
thought that
on,
was
man.
a bit absurd. O'Neal Cruz having his kind of 99th percentile outcome this year with the 20 steals and the 12 homers, including the hardest hit ball in the StatCast era.
Yeah,
Um, but
Cruz
a
is
lot of
killing it.
A lot of familiar names here. Nothing else really jumping off the screen too much from me other than my guy Jeremy Pena, 9 homers, 10 steals. Love to see that.
Perdomo down there, Perdomo for Arizona doing pretty
Yeah,
dang
he's kind
solid.
of slowed down a touch, but man, he had a really good stretch. But yeah, just keeps putting up numbers.
You gotta like what you're seeing out of Jeremy Pena. I think some people have kind of forgotten him the last couple of years after he got off to a really nice start in Houston. Good to see him kind of
He's
bouncing back.
just kind of doing exactly what I hoped he would, which is be like a 2020 guy. I mean, be about 15 to 20 homers and have about 15 to 20 steals, and that's kind of right where his pace is. I mean, if
It's good to see Torkelson's literally been a coin flip in his career. I mean, he literally has an awful year followed up by a good year, followed up by an awful year. I mean, I don't get it, but
yeah. As much as I like this segment because I think everybody who's listening kind of gets a shout out of some of their players, I think people have waited long enough to get into our team by team power
yeah.
rankings here. So, before we do that, which we will do that shortly, let's just take a quick gander over at the league landscape here. If I click on the standings, right now we have yours truly in the top as our head-to-head rankings. We have myself followed by, and this is the combined rankings, so this is not by division. I can pull those up here in a sec. Myself, Dex, Pete, Tyler, you, Dane, Phil, Bryce, Chad, Chris, then Dave, Crimmy, Jordan, and Justin, rounding out number 14 there. That is our regular head-to-head rankings. If we look at like the Roto rankings, which some might argue is a better indictment on how a team has performed this year or the overall balance of the team, that has me not in first. It has me down in fifth. You're the first overall team in Roto, followed by Chad, Tyler, Phil, myself, Peter, Dex, Dane, Bryce, Return of the Blah, Dave, Crim, Chris, Jordan, and Justin still in 14th there. A common theme there for the Wahoo Maniacs, unfortunately. So as we kind of look at these two different rankings here, and I can kind of come over the American and National League here. You made some comments about the American National League. You're saying your American League, big bad American League's better than the National
Well,
League.
yeah.
You want to throw some shots?
Look at the bottom. I mean, everyone in the American League there is. I mean, even where I'm at, right? Look where Dave is.
Yeah.
Um, even that's a what a
7 games
nine-game
under
difference,
500.
an 8.5 game difference, an 8.5 game difference. I mean, we're talking. I can have a 1-8 week. Dave could have a 9-1 or 9-1 week, and all of a sudden he's pretty much tied with me, and he's on the
He's
bottom of the
11 and a half.
division.
Oh,
If
with
you go
you. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, to me, you go to the other division. I mean, look at the bottom team in this division is 38 wins, and
Hey,
then
well,
39,
it's
and then
not my fault
41.
that the best team in baseball is up here at the
Oh,
top. It's hard to compete.
I mean, it's not shocking. I mean, we'll see later based on their rankings, but the three worst teams might be in the same division.
Very well could. We have Jordan, Justin, and Krim is who I believe you're referring to there. If you didn't want to call them out by
Yeah,
name, I guess I have to. Um,
I mean, they're right there. They got the three worst records, so I mean, they're there. So
So here's our Roto rankings once again here. We have some big movers from our original rankings to now. So if I'll read off our initial consensus preseason power rankings, which was you and my, if we combine our two rankings, what we kind of had as our consensus. In the preseason, it was number one was Chad, number two was Bryce and Dana, tied at number two. Number four then would be me and you, tied at number four. We were a little less pessimistic about ourselves. Nobody wants to hear us sucking each other off here for 2 hours. Number six, Phil. Seven, Dave. Eight, Chris. Nine, Tyler. 10, Dex. 11, Justin. 12, Krim. And then tied at 13 and 14 was Jordan and Peter. Of those, if you compare our original preseason power rankings to the current Roto rankings, our biggest riser, do you know who our biggest riser is?
it would have to be Peter.
It is actually Peter. It's Peter by one spot. Peter is risen 7 spots, not based on power rankings, but just based on Roto standings compared to our consensus. He's up +7. Tyler is a +3. Excuse me, Tyler's a +6. You're a +3. Phil's a +2. Dex is a +3, and Krim is a +1. So
Hmm.
those are the guys that have overperformed what we thought we would. Of the guys that have underperformed what we thought they would, Chad technically is a -1. Had him number one. He's in second place right now. Me, I'm underperforming. I'm -1. Dana -6. Our
Yeah.
biggest faller, not a surprise. Bryce -7. Dave -3. Chris -4. Justin -3. And Jordan actually broke even. We hit the nail on the head with Jordan at number 13. He is the 13th roto team, and that's exactly where we had him in the preseason here. So, of those, between a riser and a faller, what do you think has been the biggest surprising team, either positively or negatively?
Just kind of based off my own rankings, because obviously ours are thrown together on the consensus ones, and we did have some different ones for sure from each other. I think the big one for me, and I remember saying in the pre-show, it was tough for me to kind of gauge him, is Tyler, because I think preseason I had him at 10. And
Yeah.
as we can see, he's number 3 on Roto. And we'll talk later on some of these teams. I think some of these teams we even mentioned pre-show, we might not fully believe in some of these teams, or some of their records might be lower than we think they should be. Based on where we have them. But I think Tyler's been a pretty good surprise this year. And then I think one of the ones that have kind of been surprising, again, kind of what happened last year, we were both pretty high on Dana. From what it sounds like, we both remain pretty high on Dana, but his team just isn't performing still.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of the same things that were happening last year with it. So we'll have to see what happens. I think Peter's a little bit of a surprise, but from a roto point, it's hard to say because Peter's got a great record. Chad doesn't have a great head-to-head record, but Peter, based on Roto, is a pretty league average team.
Mhm.
Dexter's a pretty league average team. Bryce, that kind of Roto range from 72 to 80, 83 points there is kind of that league average range. So it's kind of hard to say which team's real, which team's not. But I think Tyler's team, I guess I would say, has impressed me more than I thought it would thus far.
Yeah, I would have to say my biggest surprise has to be Bryce. You and I disagreed on Bryce because I had Bryce number one. You had him number
Yeah.
five in your power rankings, and here he is down at number
Well,
nine.
you were giving me so much shit because I'm like, I think he's a fringe
Or-
playoff team, and you're like, what?
yeah.
What? How? No way.
Yeah, so I liked how Bryce's team was well rounded. He's made a couple trades, nothing really too ground shake. I guess he's made some significant trades, but nothing like too big or too small of like how it's affected his team. We'll kind of get into. But with that being said, I mean, I think he's just across the board. He's had some underperformances from a
Yeah.
couple guys, a couple pitching injuries, and I mean, when you're counting on more from Juan Soto and Duran, and they've been as bad as they've been. That's gonna do it for you. But he's been on the come up. He was down there, pretty far down there, and he's kind of working his way back up. He sent me a
I
little
think
taunt yesterday.
I do think we can't go the show without saying how dominant Phil's pitching was. I mean, I know he's not doing 14s across the board, but
Caught up and
I mean, I
slow.
liked his pitching coming in, but never did I think. I mean, he had 14s across the board. I mean, I could be throwing a date out here, but it seemed like until just a couple weeks ago.
I don't
I
know if he
mean,
ever got the saves. I don't know if he ever got 14 on the saves, but I mean, certainly the other four. When I
yeah.
pointed out like 3 days ago, it's the strikeouts, and I think
Right.
it
And I
just
remember even Chad bringing up how many hitting points he had versus how many pitching. I mean, his hitting was still brutal. We'll get to one trade he made soon that'll help that out a little bit. But his hitting was still brutal, but his pitching, man, I mean, that was some legendary stuff that first month and I mean, even still it's great, but
yeah.
that first month and a half when he was pretty much 14s across the board was pretty impressive.
I mean, I kind of didn't want him to trade Wheeler because I wanted to kind of go down in history as maybe the most dominant pitching staff of all time by the end of the year.
Yeah.
But we'll see if he can kind of sustain. Because now he's got Wheeler out of the picture and Eovaldi now on the mend. So we'll see how quickly he can get Eovaldi back. But
Yeah.
he's gonna be kind of reeling here for a little bit. Alrighty. So we've usually gone in like an ascending or descending order here. I think we're gonna go alphabetical today. And then we will give you your power rankings at the end of each team here. You can kind of see kind of where it stacks up and all that at the end of each different team. So let's see here. If we were to go, oh man, now my internet is my Chrome's gonna slow down a little bit here. Oh,
There
don't
you
do
go,
it to
man.
me
What's going on?
now. All right, there we go. All right, so we'll go to our first team, which is the Beantown Boys, which is Bryce. This is the team that I was very high on early in the year, and that just seems like this is a team that just kind of hasn't really hit its stride yet. Through maybe a couple pitching injuries, obviously losing Blake Snell is one that's going to sting pretty bit. Not that you can really rely on Blake Snell to be reliable this time of year anyway. I mean, you're kind of banking on Blake Snell to be on the bench the first 2 months anyway. Then the second half is when he comes alive. So, I mean, having him hurt right now obviously is feels bad, but you kind of know what you're getting out of Blake Snell anyway. Mize has been a lot better on his bench, but his overall rotation, he's got Skubal at the top, nobody better. Then he's got Pivetta, Ober, Roop, and Waka rounding out his rotation. His closers are Edwin Diaz and Aroldis Chapman, who he acquired recently. I actually think that Bryce has probably made more trades than anybody this year. Now that I think about it, when I see some of these players on his roster and kind of how he acquired some of them. And overall, like it's a decent rotation. It's not one of the best. The closers have been pretty solid for him. Once he gets Snell back, and that's kind of his second ace, and Bailey Ober becomes his three, and then maybe some of these other guys like Waka and Pavetta become his four and his five, it looks a lot better. But I think so far, Pavetta is overperforming what I expect him to because he's more of like a four career ERA kind of guy than a 2.74 ERA kind of guy. And Ober's going to bring a massive whip because he's a fly ball pitcher, which actually fly ball pitchers should actually have lower whips, which is surprising. But a 1.35 whip from Bailey Ober. And I think um, a big weakness of this team is actually the pitcher strikeouts. I mean, to have Skubal giving you 99, but then it seems like everybody else is under
Well
at a
below.
strikeout inning or below. Pavetta's not bad at 71, but Bailey Ober 50 strikeouts in 62 innings. Roop 56 strikeouts in 56 innings. Waka only 50 strikeouts in 68 innings. He's getting some strikeouts from his closers, Diaz 37 and Chapman 32. And then even Casey Mize under a strikeout an inning, Gonsolin 32 and 31, Rodriguez a little bit. And then obviously once Blake Snell comes back, we know he is the all-time strikeout rate leader in Major League Baseball history. So I mean that'll provide a little bit of a boost for him too once he gets him back. The offense, I would say, pretty decent across the board. Has a little bit of power, a little bit of steals, and you kind of see what I saw, hopefully, in the offense here if it kind of starts firing on all cylinders. You don't love McMahon as a starting third baseman, but he could very easily slide Vladimir Guerrero Jr. into there. He's gotten some contributions from Goldschmidt, but he's got the big guns in Vlad, Soto, Duran, and then Bogarts isn't offensively that great, but he's chipping in the 11 steals. He's got a little bit more coming from Will Smith, hopefully throughout the year than he's given him so far. And overall, I think this is one of our more well-rounded squads. It has a little bit of everything, and that's kind of what I liked about Bryce's team. He's done a good job addressing his needs via trades. But overall, what do you make of what you're seeing here? Has he underperformed or has he overperformed so far?
I mean, I definitely think he's underperformed a little bit. I had him as the fifth best team coming in, but I had him as a fringe playoff team. And honestly, that's kind of where I have him now. I don't think he needs to panic. I don't think he needs to freak out and make any crazy moves. I do agree that I think he's got one of the better offenses, more well-rounded in the league, and that is with Juan Soto struggling. I think most people would love to have that stat line, but Juan Soto can take it another level. But like you mentioned, Duran, Soto, Vlad. I would maybe even throw CJ Abrams' name in there. The RBIs are down a little bit, but he's scoring a lot of runs,
Royal
steals,
underperformed
hitting eight
big
home
time.
runs. Yeah. I mean, Will Smith carrying a 444 OBP. I mean, this lineup is going to play almost every week against anybody. It is that good. I think his pitching, and it's easy to say without Scooball, this team would be in huge trouble. But Scooball has really kept, I would say, Bryce treading water
Mhm.
pitching wise. I think Pavetta's been a shock so far. I don't know if Pavetta keeps that up. The dude's not 25.
Yeah.
He's never ever really done this in his life before. So I don't
Mhm.
know if Pavetta is going to keep that up or not.
Not many pitchers have their career breakout at age 32. I mean, maybe like
Right.
R.A. Dickey, the knuckleballer, like he
Yeah.
might be like the
But and that's
exception
kind
to
of what
the
I'm
rule.
getting at. I mean, can we expect Skubal to continue doing this? Okay, maybe we can. That's fine. He's a Cy Young winner. Can we expect Pavetic to keep doing this? Not as sure. Who the hell is Rope on San Francisco? I had him on my team for a little bit, but I mean, we're talking. Then it's Waka. I mean, I'm a little nervous in Bryce's rotation. I'm a little nervous in the depth it has. I think if it goes down, I mean, obviously I'm a Waka fan. We're looking at his card right now. He's been good. He's been very solid, but I just worry, and he's got Mize kind of in the background. So it's not like he doesn't have arms, but
Mhm.
I do think he's somewhat missing. I know Blake Snell's on the IL, so that's the answer to it. But I do somewhat thinking he's missing kind of a more reliable second arm. I know it's silly to say with the numbers Pavetta and Ober have, and you got Blake Snell sitting back there, but I love Bryce's offense. I'm a little worried about the pitching.
Yeah, but even Snell, I don't think Snell's coming back for probably at least mid to late July.
Right.
I mean,
And
he's just
even then,
throwing
how
off
much
and
is he
mound
limited?
now.
I mean, if the Dodgers are going to be in the playoffs, he's
Yeah.
never been a 6, 7 inning guy. I mean, how much is he pitching?
Yeah, yeah, probably not much. It's gonna be every sixth day, if they can get some of their pitchers back. So yeah, I mean, you'd like to see like an upside arm here, but maybe the argument is Mize is the upside arm or Pavetta's the upside arm,
Sure.
or whatever it is
Yeah.
that kind of weathered the storm. Because yeah, I mean, once towards the end of the year, if he's going first off, it's Skubal, then Snell, Ober is the three. Maybe if you
You're
bump up
liking it.
Ford,
Yeah.
and then Waka, he's not going to knock your socks off. But like the last 4 years, he's just been a 3.3 ERA guy. He's not going to provide the strikeouts, but if you're getting them from Snell and everywhere
Right.
else, then it's not an issue. And then you just need a fifth guy.
And that's
Um,
and that's kind of where I'm at on Bryce's team. I'm not hitting the panic button. I think honestly, if he held fort, it's probably a solid team all around. But that's kind of where weirdly enough, I don't really have his team switched all that much from the beginning of the season because I think it's about a fringe probable playoff team, and I'm probably of the same mindset now. I think it's a fringe probable playoff team.
Yeah, I don't have him as the number one team anymore. Because I just don't think that I think it's good rotation, good offense, but I don't think it's kind of top tier in either one of those categories. And I
Do we
don't
want
see
to take a
like
look at his trades too coming up?
yeah, and we'll look at the trades. Thank you for the reminder. And but I don't really see a whole lot of like big assets for him to move to like acquire, if an assets from one of our selling teams in a way
Sure.
that's kind of meaningful. And so from a path to being like the top overall team, it's a little bit harder to see that now than we have before. So if we go to some of his trades here. Let's click on Bryce. We'll start with in before the draft, I think this was, or is this after the draft? February 24th. Yeah, this would have been before the draft. He
Yeah,
traded away
before.
Olson, got Caminero and Gore. So that was obviously a huge win based on how those two have performed so far. We'll see a little bit later what he turned Gore into. We talked about that one. Eovaldi and Perez, he turned that into Singer and Doyle. That was after the draft. Probably one he wishes he had back a little bit because of how he's performed. We did what was the date on our last pod? Did we discuss that one yet?
The 29th of March.
9th March. Okay, so we have discussed a lot of these before, and then Singer, he gave away Singer, got back Jesus Sanchez, and those are three we talked about before. Based on what we said before and our reaction before, of those three, anything you want to add to those three?
Those trades, nothing too much. Like I said, most all those are kind of pre-draft trades, I believe. Maybe the Singer Sanchez one isn't. I can't remember what the actual date is we drafted, but
Yeah.
nothing too crazy there. Makes sense. Like I said, even in the moves we're going to talk about here in a little bit, I don't. There's some big names involved. He's definitely been involved in a lot of them, but I don't necessarily know if it's swung the pendulum too much for his team. So
I would probably flip my opinion on almost all of these based on how they perform, based on what I bet I said the first time around. Because
yeah,
I mean, right now, Matt Olson for Mackenzie Gore is probably pretty fair based on how those have performed, and then to kind of acquire his Junior Caminero on top of it in that deal, which who we flipped later was like, yeah, that's a pretty solid trade in
yeah,
that respect. To only give up Doyle and Singer, who have both been pretty bad, is what he acquired. He gave up Eovaldi and Perez. I think I kind of liked this trade at the time, but now knowing what Eovaldi's done this year, and knowing that Doyle and Singer basically both been a net negative, that's not
yeah.
what. And then Singer and Sanchez, both neither one of those guys moved the needle, so that kind of is what it is. So that brings us to the three trades that he's made since our last pod, starting with he gave up Jesus Sanchez and Jesus Luzardo, who's a little bit of a story based on his last outing here, and got back Goldschmidt and Eduardo Rodriguez. So with this trade, I'm gonna I'll let you take the lead in the next one, because I want to talk about Luzardo. Like I think 4 days ago we would have been like, God damn, he got Luzardo in that deal. Like, oh, what a steal. But no, or he gave up Luzardo in that deal. Excuse me. But here's the thing. Luzardo, he's who he gave up on April 28th. And essentially, since April 28th, he was dealing, but ever since he gave up 12 runs on Sunday, now over his last 30 days, he's got a 5.97 ERA and a 1.57 whip. That'll do that. That'll happen. So overall, since the trade,
Yeah,
Luzardo
but this is the tough thing though. This is the tough thing though. From a roto perspective, that hurts a lot.
Mhm.
But from a head-to-head perspective, has Luzardo been very good for Krim outside of that one start?
Very solid.
Yeah,
Very
because
solid, very
I'm looking
reliable.
back. This trade happened when April
Mhm.
28th, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, he's not had a start with over 3.5 ERA or a 3.8 ERA since he's gotten them until that. I mean, granted, the last one blows. I mean, yeah, it's going to kill you, but
Mhm.
from a start to start basis, I do think Luzardo. I would say that Krim has still won that trade.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you could argue that. And then, but I think that Goldschmidt's been actually pretty serviceable too. And he's not going to knock your socks off with the numbers, but just kind of home 6 homers, 28
Sure,
RBIs,
not too bad.
38
Yeah, very good.
runs is probably in the top 20 or so on the league in runs scored with a 388 on base percentage and 5 steals. So a guy that's
Yeah,
doing a little bit of everything. And that's kind of what you like to see out of Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt's not a guy that's going to hit 40 bombs, but he's a guy that you hope pitches in some steals, some solid OBPs, and then playing in a good Yankees lineup
yeah,
that
huge
runs
bounce back for him
and
this year.
RBIs. So overall, I think I don't what is Luzardo's contract situation now? I'm curious about that. Because that might be a big difference. Is he looking like a keeper this
He's
year?
only a $6 A, and that's why I know Goldschmidt, I
Yeah.
believe, is an A2, but I think Goldschmidt's also 37. So, and that's why overall, I mean, I would say Krim's got it because I mean that one start from Luzardo, I'm not going to take that for much. I mean it was a bad start, but I think having I mean we could look at Luzardo as that's on that $6 deal as being one of the best contracts in the league next year.
Yeah,
So
it very well could be if he continues kind of doing what he's doing. I didn't expect him to be like a 1.8 ERA guy, but I mean, if he could hover around 3.2 or so, that'd be pretty solid. So I'm going to give Bryce, because that's what matters here. This is Bryce's segment here. I'm going to give him a C minus on this trade. I think he addressed a need, but to give up Luzardo and get Goldschmidt back, who is serviceable, solid, but I don't know if he moves the needle in a way that really is working for Bryce. What would you give Bryce's grade here?
I'm honestly right there with you, C minus. Like I said, it's not that Goldschmidt's been bad. If anything, we could look at it as Luzardo for Goldschmidt, and both teams have been largely happy so far. But I do think there is a little bit of the factor of Luzardo being that young and up and coming pitcher that I think is one of those. If we looked at it a year from two from now, it could be really hurting Bryce. So overall,
Is
I would
Luzardo
say,
basically the exact piece that Bryce needs right now?
yeah. I mean, when you look at it,
Yeah.
not too far off there. So I'll be right there with you, C minus.
Yeah. All right, next one. This one created some waves a little bit when you see a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on the move, who Bryce acquired. He got Vlad and Waka. You've always been keen on Waka, and it's just
Oh yeah.
his 3.2 ERA year in, year out. So Bryce gets Vlad and Waka, gives up Manzardo, Caminero, and Gore. And this is one at the time where I was like, man, didn't seem like he had to give up really that many keystone pieces for Vlad. But now you kind of look back at that and you're like, oh man, wow. Bryce also gave up Mackenzie Gore in this deal, who's another guy that Bryce could really need based on his kind of strikeout woes. And he gave up him, Caminero, who's been almost unplayable until this last week, and Manzardo, who's been pretty solid, 10 home runs, 28 RBIs, but kind of starting to slow down a little bit. Not a guy that you can just lock into your lineup and have him be locked and loaded. So I feel like Bryce is going to come out ahead here because I think that although that Gore's got the strikeouts, Waka is very serviceable. And to get a guy like Vlad, I think without really giving up guys that were, I guess Gore's been really solid. Oh man, I don't know. I'm gonna give him a B minus here. I think overall he comes out ahead to get Vlad and Waka. I think Gore and Waka, not that they're interchangeable, but they address different categories. I would rather have Gore than Waka, but I think to get Vlad is kind of a huge way to move the needle for him here. So I'll give him a B or B minus here.
Yeah, I'm fair with that. Like I said, I think he got a big superstar bat, which is what he needed. Gave up a little bit of his depth, but I think it kind of weirdly what both teams needed, and we'll look at it from my perspective later. But what both teams needed, I think it made sense. So,
Hmm.
and I was trying to field offers for any of my big superstars for a while. So someone
Yeah.
finally pulled the trigger on it.
Yeah, yeah. I wish I'd have gotten in on Vlad. This is the kind of the exact guy that I could use right now. And then lastly, we have he traded away Jordan Westberg, got back Aroldis Chapman and McMahon. This one's kind of a TBD because we have to see what Jordan Westberg is. If he is who he was last year and starts driving in RBIs and playing the way he did last year, how in 3/4 of a season, 18 homers, 6 RBIs, and 63 or 6 steals, 63 RBIs, and 57 runs scored. That lineup could certainly use him. If this kind of his breakout, then it looks okay. But right now, Chapman's a $2 a contract, and he's been a lockdown closer throughout the entire year. So I'd kind of gotten frustrated with it. Seemed like the Red Sox either weren't winning games, and even when they were, he wasn't always the one they used, and because of him being a lefty. But ever since then, it seems like he's the go-to guy, and he's been really solid for Bryce. So I don't know if I wish I would have had that one back, but I really like Jordan Westberg, and I need a third baseman, so we'll kind of see how it goes.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't hate Ryan McMahon either. If you pull up Ryan McMahon's numbers
He's been
from
pretty bad this year.
but if you pull up Ryan McMahon's numbers from last year, he was better than Westberg was. So
Mhm.
I mean, the way I look at it is,
Over
I
the
think
course of a full
Westberg.
year, though. I mean, he had like 150 more at bats.
Yeah, I mean, even still, I mean, he's going to have 150 more bats this year. He's playing, right?
Yeah.
So, weirdly, I think McMahon and Westberg's almost. I mean, I think you'll give a little bit of that ceiling and a little bit of that prospect pedigree to Westberg, but throwing a Chapman on there, and I think, right, obviously, like you said, to be determined. We'll see what happens. This is only a couple weeks old, but I definitely think Bryce did really well here, so I'd give him a B plus.
Yeah, I need Westbrook to like come back and like break out, not not just be kind of who he was last year in order for
Yeah.
that to make sense. But this is about Bryce, and so you'd have to give Bryce an A minus for this one, right? Because you're going to say McMahon's always obviously been more productive than Westbrook has been because he hasn't been available, and then to get a serviceable closer is has been really great.
Yeah.
What would you get a grade for him here?
Oh, I said B plus. Yeah.
All right, so where does that put with everything we said there? Where does that put Bryce in your rankings?
In my rankings, like I said, I had him fifth coming into the year. So I had him kind of right there as a fringe playoff team. I didn't have him in that kind of upper tier, top two, 3 or 4 teams, but I had him at fifth. I'm gonna have him at seventh now.
Mhm.
Again, I still think he's a fringe playoff team. I still think he's going to be fighting for it all the way through. I like his team a lot. But there's some teams that have kind of surprised me a little bit that I had to kind of bump them up from the preseason rankings. So I got Bryce at 7. I still think he's going to be fighting for a spot all year. I think he's going to be right there. I'm not going to be shocked if he makes it. I wouldn't be super shocked if he just missed it either. I really think he's right on the edge and on the edge of those teams. So I'm going to have him 7th in my updated June 2nd power rankings.
Yeah, I had Bryce higher in mind, and then I kind of lowered him and put two other guys ahead of him. And then after going through his lineup again, I kind of wish I kind of left him where he was, but I'm not at sixth. I think he probably deserves to be closer to like the 4 or 5 range, if I'm being honest. But I think that there's maybe some higher ceilings in some other teams. But yeah, I do kind of like this team after going through it one more time. But right now he's going to stay at sixth. So. He'll be kind of in consensus rankings right in the middle. I'll review the consensus rankings here towards the
Yeah.
end. All right. So next we'll go to our next alphabetical team here, which is going to be Burns and IP. That's going to be me. Since we're here, we'll go to the transaction history. I don't need to really give myself grades. I mean, we can, but I can let you handle that. If you can give me a report card when it's all said and done here. So let's see here. In the offseason, I gave up Devers and Teoscar to get Gunner, which I probably wish I had that one back. Then I gave up
Well, yeah.
I gave up Zach Wheeler, Christopher Morel, Cutter Crawford, Austin Riley, got back Langford and Baz. That one's kind of a wash. Then
Yeah.
gave up Kenley Jansen for Victor Scott. Jansen's not been great, but he's still locking down saves in Anaheim there. Scott's been pretty good with his 16 steals, 332 on base
Yep.
percentage, decent. Counting stats aren't great. Certainly only 2 homers. I wish I had a little bit more in the power department there from him. I was on the other end of that Bryce deal, acquiring Jordan Westberg for Chapman and McMahon. Had the surplus of closers and needed a third baseman, so willing to wait it out on McMahon there. And then most recently, as of this afternoon here, basically I turned JT Realmuto into Salvador Perez, using Yandy Diaz as kind of a pawn there. So those are the trades I've made. Most of them probably not beneficial to me, but I'll let you kind of go through and give any grades or make any comments you'd like.
Like I said, the pre-draft ones are always kind of hard to look at because a lot of that matters with salary. So obviously Devers and Teoscar are killing it compared to Garner. But obviously there's a little bit of a salary move in there as well. So it's kind of hard to totally judge those with the same.
Essentially, it's like Gunner and Acuna because that freed up $40 in salary that I was able to turn into Acuna essentially.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to judge those pre-draft trades as severely as the ones post-draft. But post-draft, like I said, we just went over the McMahon, Chapman, and Westberg one to be determined. But I think obviously McMahon and Westberg are similar enough where I don't think I would have thrown Chapman on top of that. The catcher thing, I mean, look at you getting in on all these catchers here. Fun stuff. You know me, as great as he's been and as big numbers as he's had in the past, I've never been the biggest Salvador Perez fan. And honestly, right now, Real Muto is playing better than Perez.
He is. And he's
He's in
on
a
a
better
bad
lineup.
team.
He's in a better lineup. He's going to contribute in almost every category, and Perez won't. So, I mean, both are having rough years, but I think I would just go with the younger guy. I mean, who is younger? Isn't Salvador like 36 at this point? I don't know them. I know JT Realmuto's getting up there too, but I don't know. I mean, it's kind of somewhat of a wash. You're hoping Perez gets his power numbers back and he's up to closer to 30. But if he's not getting those power numbers back, I'm
When
not sure where he does better than Real Muto, because Real Muto to me is to me the better guy. But I don't know.
Yeah,
So overall, I'd say a C. I
I've
don't
kind
know.
of been really concerned about RBIs and home runs. And so even looking at like peak Real Muto, he's never really been one to drive in a ton of RBIs. So he had
Right.
22 this year, 47 last year, 63, and then even going to all the way back to 2022 is his peak season at 84 RBIs. He's
But the
never been
steals and the on base and the
a big
home
run
run,
producer. The
yeah,
on base isn't great. 292 this year,
it's
322,
typically better than Salvi's, dude. Salvi's
310,
barely gets
342.
three. Doesn't Salvi's barely ever get over 300 in his
It
career?
depends on the year. It's kind of gone up and down. But I mean, 330 last year. But the big thing is the RBIs. Salvi, more
Yeah,
RBIs this year, even though he's only hit 4 home runs. He's got more RBIs, and I expect some regression there in a positive way. 104 RBIs last year, 80 the year before, 76 the before that, 121 the year before that. But I don't expect him to hit 48 home runs again. But yeah, I expect him to probably have about 10 to 20 RBIs more
sure. That's
than
fair.
Real Muto does the rest of the season. That's kind of why I wanted to turn.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's kind of a wash for the most part. You're kind of just which catcher you buying more into, which veteran catcher and I feel like that's totally fair. I'd probably be more on the Real Muto side, but I could see where the Perez and the RBIs make more sense for your team.
There's been a lot of solid catchers, and for Real Muto to only have 18 runs, 5 homers, 22 RBIs, and a 292 OBP. That's like not even like the top 20, I feel like, of
No.
catching performances this year. And so
No.
it just kind of was fit like I was stuck with him. He was just he's on the wrong side of fringy, which is like he's on an A contract. You kind of got to keep him. You kind of got to keep him in your lineup for the name value, but he's not really helping you in any kind of way. So
Sure.
that's kind of a tough thing there. So. Here's the squad, and looking at peeking ahead at our rankings, you're a little bit more keen on my team than I might be. So why don't you tell me why what you like about this squad?
Well, I think from a head-to-head perspective, obviously you've done pretty well with the record 52 and 34, and this is largely without a lot of guys. To me, performing up to their peak. I know we talked earlier before the season about Mookie Betts, and not that last year was like a down year for him, but even still, I think we still just expect a little bit more from him, because even
Yes.
still, he's not. Yeah, he's on pace for 110, 115 runs. He's
Mhm.
on pace for 20 homers. He's on pace for 90, and that is kind of really what you get from him. And I think if anything, he's doing about that. But I think there is another level to him. I think there's another level, obviously, to Gunnar, who has not played very well this year. Wyatt Langford's finally get going. I think Nemo's been a little bit. The weird thing is, I think you've had some guys perform better than they should have, in Pena and maybe a Newt Bar. But you've also had dudes that either haven't played or have been hurt.
Mhm.
Raggins has been out for a little bit. King has missed a couple starts now, a few starts. So it's one of those things where I feel like you're one of the best teams in the league right now, and I feel like you've been at about 70% almost the entire time. So
Mhm.
that's why, to me, I'm not so worried about the roto. I'm not so worried about you being at 80 or 83 points, kind of in the middle of the pack there, because I just kind of feel like this team's been at 65, 70% all the way. And once it's at even 85, 90%, I think it's right there as the best team in the league.
Mhm. Interesting. Yeah, and then I mean, I'll obviously adding Acuna. I haven't had Acuna until last week, so
I mean,
hopefully.
even just that lineup when Betts, and I know Gunner's had his struggles, but
Mhm.
Betts, Gunner, and Acuna. If you were to tell me that was who you started the season with, I mean, do you get much better than that? I mean, that's damn good.
Yeah, obviously, just the biggest glaring weakness here is the RBIs because I'm looking at a lot of guys here who are going to hit at the tops of their lineups and not have
Yeah,
the RBI opportunities because if Mookie is going to hit, is he hit behind Otani, I guess, or is he hit at the top? I can't remember. But between Gunnar hits leadoff or third, and Acuna is going to be at the top, and like when your superstars aren't guys that are going to drive in 120, this lineup could probably use a guy like Vlad or Jordan instead to bring more
yeah.
run production because I can't rely on Nootbaar and Pena and these guys that
Nimmo,
really
yeah, a lot of
dominate.
these guys are at the top of the lineup for sure. You
Yeah.
are correct.
They're not boppers. So that's been the weakness and just one glaring weakness on my team. But I think stolen bases are fine. Taking Scott out of my lineup might hurt a little bit in that department, though. Hopefully Acuna can kind of supplement that. And OBP, I think I'm going to be fine. But yeah, I just need to get the pitching healthy. Need to kind of be at full strength here, and we'll kind of see what I can do. I won't be done on the trade market here, so we'll see what I can kind of turn this team into by the end of the year. I had myself as the number two team. You disagree?
Interchangeable. The two guys talking right now, one or two. I don't usually like put myself one. The couple times I've ever done that, whether it's football or baseball, it's never seemed to go very well.
Yeah,
So
you never want to
I
call
try
yourself.
to, I try to put myself at two or three. But if it wasn't me speaking, I'd probably have you at two. Yeah.
All right, we'll go to Chad's team here. And Chad's obviously had a solid squad for 2, 3 years now. And is one of our scariest teams in the preseason and even post draft, where we look at this like, yeah, and it's, Chad looking to kind of run back what he's done the last couple of years. Doesn't have a ring. Gotta get that out in front here. He's got certainly enough boppers. He just got rid of Devers. And but before that, he had your Kyle Tuckers, James Woods playing well. Got Otani in there. Don't want to bury the lead there. And then from a pitching standpoint, he traded Devers for Wheeler. And then the rotation has some names: Joe Ryan, Bryce Miller, Gavin Williams, guys with some ceilings here. Bubich, Palencia now coming in at as his closer, and that's his only closer that he has. I see a team here that is flawed. I'm not as high on Chad's team right now. I see some warts in this lineup that I can't really get over right now, and I just think that there's some things that need to be addressed. And not that Chad won't trade, but I don't think that Chad will really make the trade that he needs to make because it's not really his style to do like the 1 for 2 deal here. So. What I mean by that is like if you look at like the gaps he has in his lineup, I mean, Cronenworth is a starting first baseman. That's not really what you want either. Cronenworth is a good utility kind of guy, good fill-in, bench bat, but not a guy you really want starting because he's kind of like a Luis Arias type where he doesn't really provide a whole lot of anything, just okay across the board. Christian Campbell's been bad. He's hasn't really been startable for a competitive team. Muncy is turning things around since he got glasses, providing the RBIs, but I don't really know what we're getting out of Max Muncy. He's 34 now. Maybe we've seen the best years behind him. Volpe's been solid. He's been okay. He's probably wanting a little bit more. Ian Happ is the counting stats are okay, but 3 homers, 3 RBIs. Soler, not really a guy you want to be starting right now. You can find 8 home runs with empty counting stats pretty much anywhere. Jesus Sanchez in the lineup. It's just like, man, I just set off 6 guys that probably shouldn't be starting for a competitive team, I would imagine. And you look at the bench, and he doesn't have reinforcements coming. Lawler was sent down, and he wasn't helpful at all. Chandler Simpson was sent down, and he's a one category producer kind of guy. Geloff and Encarnacion Strand, you can't count on them for anything either. So the lineup has warts, and I don't think the pitching staff is really a whole lot to write home about either, because I feel like it has some upside, and certainly acquiring Zach Wheeler helps, but I don't really know what we're getting from a lot of these guys. Bryce Miller, 5.3 ERA, 1.5 whip. Christopher Sanchez, 1.3 whip. Gavin Williams, 1.44 whip, 3.79 ERA. Putting Wheeler at the top is certainly going to make it look better, but then he also only has one closer who we think is going to be the closer for the foreseeable future with the Cubs, but I think that they're still going to probably look to acquire a guy over the next month or two. And so I don't see this as a top rotation. It needs to get healthy. It needs to kind of perform better. It has some arms with some potential. And the lineup just, yeah, it has some boppers, but man, it's got some warts in it. I'm surprised that Chad hasn't been more active on the trade circuit trying to fill some of these holes, but I don't like the way this team's looking right now. I'm not afraid of this team.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm afraid of it. I mean, it's one of those things too. I mean, we heard plenty this year about how his schedule was just so brutal because
Yeah,
really his roto standings are what he's the second best team in roto. I mean,
yeah.
next to me, he's at 93 points. So clearly, we're looking at all these numbers, we're looking at all these stats on this team, and we're not, or we're seeing like, oh, there's a hole, but somehow it's been the second best roto team in the league. So I mean, it's doing something right. Um, I do agree. I think it's funny because we're going to talk about his trade in a minute, where he just traded for Wheeler, and interestingly enough, now we're going to say he needs a bat.
Yeah.
which I think is kind of true.
He doesn't need he needs
Um,
like serviceable bats. He doesn't need like a stud. He just needs to get some.
no, I agree because I think from that kind of like you mentioned that kind of catcher to third base thing, I think Langeliers is. I mean, it's a catcher that's
Mhm.
fine. But I do agree, like the either Cronenworth, Campbell, Munt. I think we could see some type of upgrade there. But I think the lineup's really solid. I think yes, I don't think you need a star like you said. I think you could use another really reliable middle of the order bat. But with what Wood's doing and what Tucker's doing and Otani, I mean, we could argue that is one of the best top two, top three, 1, 2, 3s in all fantasy baseball right now. I mean, Tucker, Otani, and Wood is nasty.
Yeah.
Um, and that's with Hap not doing as well. Volpe, I think his counting stats have actually been pretty good. I think the steals, if anything, are a bit down. But in
That
terms of
of the top
RBIs,
hitters,
home
that's
runs,
three of the top six hitters in the league. So league this year.
yeah, exactly. And obviously that's carrying them quite a bit. And they're not known to be super injury prone. I know Tucker got hurt last year and he just got hurt recently. So overall, I think the offense is going to hold. I mean, when you have three superstar bats like that, you can kind of fill it out with some league average guys. Because I don't think any of these guys are unstartable. I just don't think I think there's spots where you can upgrade them. I don't. Christian Campbell, I think you can argue is unstartable.
Yeah.
Jake Cronenworth, 100 at bats. I don't know if I'd quite say unstartable with the OBP. 100 at not
So he's
awful.
he's on pace to basically 20 homers, 5 steals, and
Right.
65 runs and 65 RBIs.
Yeah, I mean that's serviceable. You know what I mean? Like when you have three
Serviceable
guys
for an
at the
eighth
top,
place team, sure.
when you have guys at the top like that, I think you can get away with the rest of your lineup. I don't think any of these guys are obvious bench players.
Mhm.
I don't. I mean, I don't think you can hate having any of them in your lineup.
I disagree.
And then the pitching, I haven't gotten to the pitching yet, but Joe Ryan's a stud. Zach Wheeler's a stud. Christopher Sanchez has been very good so far, a high strikeout guy. Bubich from Kansas City, again, can we
He's been
expect
good.
him to continue to do this? Probably not, but I don't see as many holes as you do. If anything, I see some elite star talent. You've got not only three of the best hitters in the league, you arguably have one of the best pitchers in the league, and Zach Wheeler as well. Joe Ryan's pitched like an absolute Cy Young candidate this year. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know. Chad's team's really good.
But I don't expect Bubich to do that the rest of the year, and I don't expect Joe Ryan to be this good the rest of
No, but
the year either.
but but you also, and I know you might not be as high on them. I know they're pitchers that have had injury concerns, but Yuri Perez has made 8 rehab starts. He's coming back soon. And Grayson Rodriguez, you know me, I like me some Grayson Rodriguez, is scheduled to be back in July. So if we don't love the pitching, we're talking, again, two possible ace potential guys coming back because Perez is disgustingly good when he's on the mound.
91 career innings and hasn't
I
been
know.
on since
Hey,
2022. Yeah.
I know.
Can be. Can be good.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not necessarily worried about it because he does have reinforcements coming in pitching. I think he does have some depth in arms there. I don't love it. I don't think it's the most well-rounded team in the league. It's obviously a little bit of a starbs and scrubs approach, but his stars are really fucking good.
Yeah, this is a team that if could do some damage at the trade deadline because I mean if you look at some of these A contracts on these pitchers like Chandler and Festa and Perez, and this is a team that is kind of loaded to turn to a team like Justin or Chris or Krim, and I mean because he doesn't, like I say, he doesn't need the impact high salary guys but just some of the
No.
fringe kind of guys to kind of fill in some of the gaps there in a way. Like, yeah, sure, if he wants to go
Well,
get like Bryce Harper, he might have the
that's
pieces.
exactly what I was going to say. If he was to
um
trade, I don't know if Justin would do it, but literally, you trade that pitching depth, trade that Yuri Perez and the Grayson Rodriguez for Bright. I don't know what would make it make sense, but I did say, and we'll get to his team later. Justin's going to have a big pulse on this league moving forward because of some of
mhm.
the star bats he has.
Yeah. Yeah, very well could. So I have Chad as my current number 5 team. So one ahead of Bryce as my 5th best team, just because I feel like the pieces are there to make moves, and obviously you got to acknowledge what he's done so far being the number 2 roto team. So we can't really quite put Bryce or keep Bryce ahead for that matter. But it just certainly not perfect. Certainly some warts here.
Yeah. I got him at number 3 on my new rankings. And if anything, it's actually jumped up a little bit because preseason I had him at 4. So I do have him at 3 now. I do agree with him. I think he's had a little bit of a rough schedule head to head wise. He seems to have always, he brought up those stats. He seems to always be getting every team's best weeks, which is tough. So I
Yeah.
think the roto score is a little bit more of an indicator of where he's at, and I think he'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so in the offseason, he traded away Harper to get Flaherty and Cronenworth. I think it's been kind of a net neutral because Flaherty, Cronenworth have been blah, but so has Harper, and the salary savings there were huge.
Yeah.
He obviously traded away all those picks to get Otani, which looking back on this, I know I was very critical of this trade. And, Kermie, if he's listening now, he's going to love to hear this. I don't know if he'll listen to this segment or all his segments, but like a lot of these pieces actually turned into pretty solid piece between Bregman in Boston, Freed, who's been pitching like a Cy Young this year, and even Taj Bradley, who's on a decent contract, pitching pretty decent this year. Like those three pieces there, Albies has been bad, but like those are three pieces that, like, if you were to trade them right now, like you could argue that Freed, Bradley, and Bregman for Otani right now would be an even trade with no salaries considered. So he actually got a little bit. Krim got a little bit more out of that offer than he can, but I think Bryce
I think
still.
it'd be close because again, that was a pre-draft trade, so a lot of it was salary. My thing
Yeah,
is again,
and
you
Bryce
can't
wasn't
predict.
keeping those players anyway, so that's kind of the
Yeah,
or not, Chad wasn't keeping those players anyway.
exactly. So it's one of those things like, okay, if Krim would have kept Otani and then maybe he could have spent 30 or 40 on a James Wood, would
Yeah,
he be in a better spot than what
definitely.
he did?
Yep.
Yeah.
Chad turning Corbin Carroll and Bellinger into Ketel Marte is probably biting him in the ass right now because he also kind of cut some salary there
Yep.
pre-draft. Looking at what Corbin Carroll's done, I liked this deal at the time because I thought Ketel Marte was a top asset per dollar. But man, Corbin Carroll been going off. So
He's
I
been
think
killing
kind
it.
of got to like this deal more for Dana here, based on how we can look at it now. Trading away Lindor and Campbell to Krim's crew and getting back Presley, which went down in flames. Ian Happ, who's been bad, and Mason Wynn, who hasn't really done anything, is also not really what you want to see. And I'm getting a phone call. Let you take it from here.
All right. Yeah. So the next trade obviously was the big one with Jordan and Chad, which again happened before the regular season started, but we did talk about it on the last pod a little bit, which was obviously the famous Mason Wynn, Sonny Gray, Colt Keith, and Flaherty going to Jordan. He had to get some of his Detroit boys, and Jordan trading Gallon, Sanchez, Encarnacion, and Volpe to Chad. And really, only Sanchez and Volpe have been kind of productive for Chad on the season. Gallon's been shitty, and Encarnacion hasn't really done anything. So overall, I mean, you could argue Gray and Wynn and kind of a wash between Sanchez and Volpe. So far, nothing to speak of there on that.
Nothing really strikes me from that trade.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty even. Gray's been awesome. Sanchez has been really well. Volpe's probably outperformed Win by a little bit, but not by a ton. So pretty even there, I'd say.
Mhm. Um, then
And then that one's the one that had to get thrown in there a few times because of the weird timing of the
Yeah,
week.
so it ended up just being Bryce Miller and Devers from is who he acquired and then gave up Marte and Gallon, which this one's probably biting him pretty bad because or no, this one's helping him because he acquired Devers, Miller, who's been pretty bad, but Gallon's been bad. Catal Marte's been hurt and bad too. So I think just to get Devers in this deal
Yeah,
was big for Chad, which he was able to turn into Zach Wheeler essentially. We'll see that in a
sure.
little bit, which that brings us to our last deal, which is um, he sent out Devers and Will Warren, got back Wheeler and Muncy. And I like this deal for Chad a little bit more than I do for Phil, because I feel like if you look at the career track record of what Max Muncy is, I feel like we're gonna look at home run and RBI numbers that are not too far from what you expect from Devers. 2 years ago, 36 homers, 105 RBIs. And right now, even though he's been bad, he's kind of on pace for 21 homers and 90 RBIs, which is not Devers level for what he's done so far. But rest of season, I feel like Devers might hit maybe five more homers and drive in 15 more RBIs. But to take that and upgrade Wheeler as the cost of that, and Will Warren is a waiver wire guy who just got not too long ago and 5 ERA, so I'm not really worried about Warren. So I like this deal for Chad a lot more, which good for him because he took advantage of what I talked about earlier, which is just hitters being more valuable than pitching.
Yeah, and again, we just talked about how Chad. I mean, think about it. Chad, we just said how had three absolute nasty boppers in his order. So
Mhm.
having Devers was just kind of an extra slice on the cake there. So I think it made perfect sense for his team to make the move. I think it really did. It was superstar bat for superstar pitcher essentially.
Mhm. All right. Next, we're going to go to Krim's crew here, who's faltered a little bit from the preseason, hanging down in there a little bit with the basement, with the bottom dwellers here. Before the year started, he traded away Paredes, got back Ha-Seong Kim. That didn't work out for him. He was the beneficiary of the Otani trade, which didn't hurt him as much as I thought it would. Granted, we never got to see what he would have spent his salary, the extra salary on, but he also left a bunch of salary on the table last year. So, you know, maybe he just wasn't didn't want to do that again. Then he traded away Aaron Nola, got back Cortez and Castellanos, kind of a wash there of just badness all around. Giving up Freed for Riley, who then he turned into Garrett Cole, is obviously not one
Oh yeah,
he is
yeah,
going
that
to, I
was
think,
tough.
not one he's going to wear very proud.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Can't do anything about the injuries. I didn't really like it at the time, but I like it even a lot worse knowing how good Freed's been. If Freed was bad or just average, you could stomach it a little bit more. But the fact that Freed's pitching as well as he is, that one's going to burn the sting a little bit. Um, he was the beneficiary of acquiring Lindor and Campbell, which has been pretty solid overall because Lindor has been much better than anybody else he gave up in that deal. And then let's see here. We still got a couple more pre-draft. We have Hunter Green for Altuve. He acquired Altuve, who has not been normal Altuve. He's been pretty bad. Hunter Green's been, when healthy, really, really good,
Nasty. Oh.
but hasn't only pitched 54 innings so far. I'd say came out a little bit behind on that one. I'd rather have Hunter Green than Altuve right now. Jock Peterson for Eduardo Rodriguez is what it is. And then we can pick this up with four trades that he's made since our last podcast.
Trim
Starting
with
with,
all these trades, who would have thought?
yeah, who'd have thought? Starting with he gave up Ozzy Albies, got back Drew Rasmussen and Jordan Walker. Would you rather have rest of the season, Drew Rasmussen or Ozzy Albies?
Ooh, probably Drew Rasmussen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean his numbers are really really good, and he's on a really good contract. Drew Rasmussen, 2.33 ERA, 0.93 WHIP, and only 48
Ozzy's been
strikeouts. He
struggling.
doesn't go deep into games, but pretty solid. 6 innings in his last three starts in a row.
Yeah, no, and Ozzy Albus has been struggling along with the rest of that Braves team. Ozzy Albus, sometimes in his career, has largely been a coin flip kind of player.
Yep.
I mean, there's been some years he's been
Been
pretty
awful.
brutal.
hmm But he's on pace for, I mean, 17 homers, 17 RBIs, or 17 homers, 17 steals, which isn't what you wanted out of him, but still kind of serviceable, I guess.
Yeah.
I'd probably give him I'd give him an A on that because he got out on Albies at the right time and still got decent value when Tyler was buying at Ozzy Albies price, normal Ozzy Albies price to get Rasmussen and Walker hasn't really been helpful, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that's a fair grade for it.
All right, next he gave up Goldschmidt and Eduardo Rodriguez, got Luzardo and Sanchez, and you're going to be a fan of this because of what you said about Luzardo and his head-to-head stuff. But I'm
Yeah.
going to give this kind of a C just because I feel like Goldschmidt and has been serviceable in the since the trade. Goldschmidt has been the better players from a roto standpoint, body of work standpoint than Luzardo has been. And then Eduardo Rodriguez, we'll kind of see what he is. But I think going forward, I still like this deal a lot better for Krim than I do for Bryce. So maybe I'll give it a C plus.
Yeah, I feel like that's fair. Like I said, I think Lazardo's been really solid for Krim. Obviously, outside of that horrible start, Goldschmidt's been really solid. So I think I'd say B honestly for both sides, but Lazardo's contract might make that worthwhile for him, especially if Krim does head into sell mode soon. So
Turning Luis Castillo into Anthony Santander. I don't know how many buyers he had on Castillo. I mean, the ERA is actually pretty good. And Santander got hurt. He basically didn't do anything for a couple weeks and then just went down in
got hurt.
flames, and he's been really bad this year. So I mean, we're gonna have to give this one a D, right? Because I don't think Castillo is the ace he once was, but you certainly aren't getting anything from Santander.
No, and with the lack of pitching that is hard to find. If you can find a guy like Castillo that for the most part in his career has been healthy, he's never really been hurt. He goes out there and he pitches every day. I know you're trying to take the upside in Santander, trying to become that 35, 40 home run bat. It's also on the Jays, so you got a little bit of that hometown cooking there for Krim, but he's just been brutal. He's been bad.
And then lastly, we have Bradish for Stott. So he turned his Kyle Bradish into Bryson Stott. Uh,
Stott's been pretty solid.
Stott, no, not really, because they don't
Really?
let Stott play every day. So his counting numbers are down 29 runs, 24 RBIs, only four homers. The steals have been okay, and the OBP
Dude,
is
that's a third of a season. He's played almost every game. That's 90 runs. That's 12 homers. That's 70 RBIs, and that's 30 steals.
let's see here. How many games has Philly played though?
Probably 60.
So I guess maybe he's playing a little bit more than I thought. It seemed like they were kind of platooning him a
But
little
I
bit.
mean, for a guy that you're just throwing in your lineup, you're talking almost 90 runs, 70 RBIs, and 30 steals. Like
I
that's
think,
solid.
but we're a little bit overweight here on what that would be because I think you got to subtract a little bit. So I think we're looking more like 80 runs, which is okay, but it's not plus. But if runs is his best attribute, and now you're talking like 11 homers and 28 steals or so, it's okay. Um, but not great. But I mean, you're not really giving up Bradish. I don't really know what you're going to get out of him. When he's been on the mound, he's been pretty solid. Career 3.56 ERA. Is he coming back anytime soon? It looks like he's throwing bullpens, coming back from Tommy John. So you don't really know what you're getting there.
Right.
Not a big enough track record to call him an asset. So I'd say
Two selling, team
okay.
selling. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's an okay deal. So I'll give it B's because I think that Stott will be better rest of season than Bradish. So,
Yeah,
um,
I agree.
but I like this for Jordan too because I like Bradish on a $1 A, I believe that is, and Stott I don't think is great. So to get something for him ain't bad.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to Crimmy's team now. The Crims crew. Been a big time disappointment, obviously. He is sitting down there at 12th in head to head, at 11th in roto, looking a little bit dead in the water. The sell off might be starting here a little sooner than later, although, the sell off wouldn't happen if he's trading, Bradish away, trading his piece away. So we'll kind of see what that turns into there. Losing Bregman hurt, losing Santander to injury hurt. And so that's kind of shading what his lineup looks like. The pitching has had some highs. A lot of guys that are performing well over the last couple of weeks, and I'm surprised to see Charlie Morton in his rotation, but I guess because he's only got the one closer. He's got some guys that have really performed well. I mean, Liberatore's pitched very well. Kikichi has been pretty solid. Colin Ray has had some good starts. David Peterson's 2.69 ERA. I mean, he's got nothing but low ERAs across the board here of a pitching staff that has performed well. The lineup leaves a little bit to be desired. He needs, some boppers here. But yeah, it's not hard to see. I guess it is hard to see like what the ceiling of what this team is actually going to be. So I'm a little pessimistic on what he can do to turn this thing around.
Yeah, there's just too many holes. I mean, Nate Lowe's fine, but it's not great. Clement, who the hell is Durbin in Milwaukee? I mean, that's not a small sample size either. Lindor's been fine. Altuve has not been. Cam Smith has that's not startable. Castellanos,
He's had a good
eh,
batting average last couple weeks. That's about it for Cam Smith.
yeah. Even Castellanos hasn't been that great. I mean, we're looking just at a lot of just blah guys on this team. I mean,
Yeah.
outside of Lindor, this and Cal Raleigh, really, obviously, this team is struggling offensively.
Mhm.
Friedel, I like a lot, but again, you're looking at a lot of guys that just aren't boppers either. Friedel and Stott are not going to hit home runs. Cam Smith, Nick Castellanos, they're not 30 home run guys. Altuve's never been a 30 home run guy. Clement and Durbin are on pace for 6 home run. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of power missing. There's a lot of RBIs missing.
Yep.
I know some of that is on the IL list with Bregman and with Santander. I get that, I do, but I mean, we can only take at what we got right now. And the pitching, I think the pitching's actually okay. Abbott's been great. Brios has been fine. Bradley's
If
been
it can
fine.
sustain what it's doing, or even,
Yes.
maybe a little bit of negative regression, it'll still be fine as long as he doesn't get like floor
Yeah.
out of all of them.
And that's the thing. I think the pitching staff's fine. I think it doesn't have an ace. I don't think it's got like your top little front line starter that you can count on each and every week. But I think if you were to play against Krim each week and head to head, there's going to be some weeks where he kills it in pitching, some weeks where he just does okay. But you factor that in with the lineup, and it's just not enough. It's just simply not enough. This is a 10th or 11th place team. I don't think it's quite enough for the playoffs, and it's not bad enough where it's going to be the worst team in the league, but I just think there's just too many spots that those guys shouldn't be starting. You know?
I'm also a little bit afraid for this team because I'm not really sure what the path is for this team either because even if it's rebuilding for next year, I mean, how many assets are guys going to kind of give top keepers for next year for? I mean, Cal Raleigh and Lindor and Altuve, but like he could kind of just keep, Lindor and Altuve too. I don't know if anybody's backing up the Brinks truck for Altuve. And Lindor, you could just keep him, so you don't really have to trade him. But same thing with the pitching staff. It's a bunch of guys on C contracts who I don't think anybody's like buying at peak value for any of them.
Yeah, I think a
Um,
Bregman one would be interesting because I
yeah,
don't think anyone's keeping Bregman at 33. But if you're talking about a playoff race kind of guy, I think someone might take a shot on Bregman if
yeah.
if they're giving a flyer keeper back.
I think if you take what Bregman did so far and you just kind of multiply it out, multiply it to 200 at bats and so far and however many games that was, so
Yeah, very,
by
very good
30.
numbers.
And 33 homers, and that's going to be 105 RBIs and a 385 OBP. I feel like you'd probably take that at 33 bucks. Um, so yeah, overall, I just don't think there's enough there, and there's not even like a scenario where I can be like, well, if he turns this, if he trades this into that, and if he, if these players turn things around, then he might be really solid. It's hard to imagine like this team actually hitting a ceiling that's meaningful.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not like you said, it's not like he's got a lot of those young, promising players that are just going to all of a sudden take that next step. If anything, he's got some aging veterans that we could argue maybe this is the new real them. And Altuve, Castellanos, Santander. Who knows? I know he's only 30 and he's off to a rough start, but it's tough to see. I don't know. I mean, like I said, there's just not a whole lot of spice in this team. Like I said, you can't really. Again, I like Lowe. If Lowe was your seventh or eighth best hitter on your team, sure, but what is he? Your second or third best hitter
Yeah,
right now? I
bringing in
mean,
some RBIs, but that's all he's really done.
right. So it's tough. It's a hard spot to be in.
All righty. So, we both had him as our 11th team. So we actually see
Yes,
pretty eye to eye on that.
and I
My
had him coming
first,
in as 11, so it's not like he's changed much. He's kind of where I had him at. I had him coming into the season at 11, and I still got
I,
him at 11 now. So
I had him at 12 going into the year. So, yeah, kind of see eye to
yeah,
eye. And he are what we thought he are
yeah,
there. And
exactly.
next, we're going to go to Dane's team, who has been one of our underperformers here. We'll go to the trades first for Dana here. In the offseason, he had a busy offseason acquiring Paredes, who, he's been okay so far. He turned Corey Seager into Bryce Miller, who, it's not that there. Bryce Miller's been bad, so is Corey Seager. Take the salaries. I'd take Bryce Miller and the salary savings there before the draft. Then he made the trade of getting rid of Gunner, selling high on Gunner, getting Devers and Hernandez. Huge win for him, regardless of
Yeah, it's been
salary,
big.
because I feel like Hernandez and Devers have outperformed what their salary was anyway. So you'd kind of rather, if I'd go back to that again, it probably would. Turning Mitch Keller into Carlos Correa is just a blah trade there. I don't think were either one of those players kept. Were both of them kept? I don't know.
I believe so.
Neither one of them have been really all that great or all that
No,
stellar. Acquiring Corbin Carroll and Bellinger for Marte. I mean, that was a good cash out there on Marte, getting the most value possibly could there. I mean, that's got to be looking back kind of an A plus there,
it's a big
maybe.
one. Yeah.
And then that brings us to the Chad trade he made where he gave up Devers and Miller to, let's see here, and then got back Marte. Wait,
And
really?
Gallon. Yeah.
Allen? Yeah, okay. What am I missing here? So and then he gave up Marte and then acquired him back.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's on his roster now. Yeah, okay.
Because
So
I think
yeah, he got him back. I
yeah.
guess I never really followed that. Um, So, yeah, not really a great deal there because obviously Devers the best player in the deal. He's been raking and he kind of sold low right at the wrong
Yeah.
time there. I guess we haven't really talked about that one. So, do you have at the time, how'd you feel about that trade?
I just think sometimes people do freak out about early season struggles, and obviously Devers had the famous early season struggle, and then now he's one of the best hitters in baseball. I think a lot of it's just hyper focused because it's the new season, everybody's watching, everybody wants their people to do well. So I
Yeah.
don't know if I would have totally sold on it, but it's one of those things where Marte is a damn good player too, and he's just been hurt. So it's not like Marte's numbers have been bad. So overall, I think it's going to end up being for the most part pretty even. It's just a matter of I mean, Devers is probably going to have more RBIs, a little bit more home runs, stuff like that. So would I overall probably rather have Devers? Sure, but again, Marte also plays a second base position, which is very very hard to find in fantasy. So that has
Martinez
to
been better
come
than I
as well.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause he's still got 8 homers, 13 RBIs, 2 steals, and a really great 396 OBP. And he's only played 33 games. I mean, if you multiply that by five for 600 at bat pace, I mean, that is 40 home runs and
Yeah.
60
So I
RBIs.
don't think it's really as bad as it looks for sure. Yeah.
But he's still probably got some better production in him there, and probably in a good Arizona lineup. Hopefully, turning that around. So yeah, I mean, I at the time I was just kind of like, I don't really know what to make of it, and I didn't really know what to make of Gallen and Miller because both of them are kind of polarizing. Both have been pretty bad this year. But yeah, obviously, I'd rather have Devers than Marte at this point. So regardless of position. So you're gonna have to give him, probably a D plus on that one. Kind of probably came out a little behind in that. And then we have the Bellinger for Jacob Wilson.
Yeah.
What's Bellinger done? Let's see, 200 at bats, 8 homers, 32 RBIs, 30 runs scored, 5 steals, and a 330 OBP. Wilson, 396 OBP, 5 steals, 7 homers, 32 RBIs, 31 runs.
Look at that average.
This is not a batting average league. I don't care about the
I
batting
know,
average.
but look at that average. That's awesome.
Um, I am going to give this a C minus. I still think that Cody Bellinger is the better player and will be the better player rest of season than Jacob
And
Wilson.
really, for us, that was position flexibility. I could have used after I traded Vlad. I could have used a little bit more of first base / outfield. He needed more of a shortstop, so that was one of the quickest trades I've ever done. It was just like, hey, you need a first base / outfielder. Here's a shortstop. I had Ellie. I had all these different shortstops, so it just made sense for
Mhm.
us. You know.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give it a C minus because I still think Bellinger is better. So let's bring it to his overall team here. His team has underperformed so far. And I was high on it in the preseason, and I'll be honest, like I'm still pretty high on what this team can be. I think across the board, you've kind of had some underperformances, and kind of just across the board, you have guys that are just pretty solid, in just about every position here. Maybe you have a spot or two that could be improved in the offense, but you kind of have some bigger bats in your Jackson Merrills and your Corbin Carrolls, and your Brent Rookers. Then you even Ketel Marte, and then you kind of supplement that with the mid-level guys in Soderstrom, who's been great in your catcher spot, Paredes, Butler, Wilson, and Teoscar Hernandez, obviously. So like those are some pretty scary bats when you kind of combine them all together and combine their skills. I don't love Shanuel as his utility here, and I don't love Josh Smith as a starting third baseman. And maybe Xavier Edwards kind of takes Shanuel's place at utility, and he still kind of needs a third baseman. But I guess Paredes can move, and maybe he needs a first baseman. So overall, like it's not bad. It's a pretty solid one. I think one of our top offenses from a ceiling standpoint, and I think that you're going to get more out of Butler and out of Jackson Merrill and out of Ketel Marte and out of Paredes as the weather warms up and as these guys start to play better. So I like where the offense is. And from a pitching standpoint, it's been bad, but I think that it's going to improve. I don't believe in Gallen as an ace anymore. Some of us never do.
No.
But I don't think Gallen is going to be a 5.5 ERA guy and a 1.39 WHIP. I don't think that Kirby is going to maintain his 11 ERA either, and his 1.8 WHIP. Boyd is might be. I mean, his 2.25 WHIP is probably about what you'd expect, but the ERA 3.08, probably a little bit of regression there, but some strikeouts to go with it. And I
Who
think,
knows? The Cubs really believed in that small sample, and
yeah,
count me wrong on it so far, but he only pitched in like 40 innings last year, and it was pretty damn good. And then he pitched in the playoffs and was even better. And the Cubs gave him that money off that. So who knows if this could be the newer Boyd? But
yeah. So and then you got Framber Valdez just being Framber Valdez, holding it down as Mr. Consistent. And Tyone's been pretty solid too. Definitely an asset, and I think that he just kind of is what he is. And then he's got Doval, Finnegan, and Martinez there as some closers, and so maybe he can move one of them if somebody believes in Justin Martinez. But I think Shelby Miller's actually gotten the last couple saves, so I don't know. Verlander and Darvish on IL, so I think the pitching staff is like pretty complete. Not that it's like a top pitching staff, but I think it's due to be better than it's been so far. Especially knowing that Doval kind of just got the job back in San Francisco, so he's going to perform better rest of the season. And I think Herbie and Galen are going to perform better than they have. So I like the lineup and I like the pitching. So I kind of like what I see in this team. It's a team I still believe in, really.
yeah, it's weird because there's a lot of deja vu. I was high on Dana's team going into last year, and I felt like it just got unlucky with injuries, maybe a little underperforming, stuff like that. And I kind of feel like it's happening again.
Mhm.
Pretty a lot of what you said, is exactly what I would have said. I think hitting wise, Soderstrom again, 23 years old, $8. he started off hot. Now I know the last month or so has probably not been great because I think he had like 8 home runs in the first
I
week. So
think he had
he's
two
been he's
last week. It cooled off, but I think he had two last week. So
did
maybe.
he okay because I know he's been struggling a little bit. But honestly, this is another one of those teams when you look at the lineup outside of Schnall, who you mentioned, which yes, the OBP playable, nothing else really is. 3 home runs, 14 RBIs, and 200 at bats is pretty brutal.
Mhm.
Outside of that, I don't think there's a guy in the lineup that like screams, man, I'd really like to see an upgrade here.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I don't. I mean, I think this is one of the best lineups, one of the most well-rounded lineups in the league. This is with Merrill missing time. This is with Ketel Marte missing time, which you can argue are two of his best bats. This is with Teoscar missing time. So I think this is just one of those teams that is just waiting to get going. And the head-to-head record speaks for itself. I think the roto points is a little bit down just because he's missed some time from some of these guys. But I
Mhm.
mean, in terms of just the lineup, it's really good. The only thing that worries me a little bit is, and I know they're in a very hitters-friendly ballpark, but he has half of the A's lineup every night.
Yeah,
So I mean, they're good. Having Rooker, Butler, Soderstrom, and Wilson.
true.
But you're literally counting on them every single night. I mean, you have half of a team's lineup on your team, so that's a lot. So he's clearly, but in that park, I mean, this is the year to do it, right?
Yeah.
But overall, like I said, I just don't see a spot in the lineup that really needs like, oh man, you could really fix that because even Schnall at $1 in the back of your end of your lineup having a 372 OBP, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe throw Austin Wells in there for more RBIs, and
Yeah.
then you're fine. Maybe
Yeah.
throw, Correa's not been great, but I just don't think there's a huge need there. Pitching wise, I'm a little worried about it because Gallen hasn't been good. Kirby has just came back. But what that tells me is this team has that good of a head-to-head record with Boyd, Tyon, and Valdez as his 1, 2, and 3.
Mhm.
And that's a little scary to think that that's been his 1, 2, and 3, and it's carried him as far as it has. So now
Yeah.
that you get Kirby back, now that you hope Gallen, you would hope can't get any worse than he's been, right? Maybe if he even comes down to like a high, even if he's a high 3 ERA kind of pitcher, I think that would be great for him. Closer wise, do you have a much better duo? I mean, with Duvall getting that closer job and how elite he's been, Finnegan just reeling in the saves, that's a pretty damn good duo there that I don't think he has to worry about the rest of the way. So I'm right there with you. I think this team's got a lot going for it. It's even got some depth, I think, with Bassett pitching pretty well this year or solidly enough. Um, I like it. I mean, I don't hate the team. I think it's like I said, there's not a hole in the lineup, and I think the pitching is starting to finally come together.
Yeah, so it's kind of in a way it's kind of similar to Bryce's team, which is like it's kind of a complete team right now.
Yeah,
Stands. I mean, he can't really withstand another like hitting injury, but
no.
it's kind of it is what it is. I'll push back
And
a
let's
little
also not forget,
bit.
didn't he have a season-ending pitching injury earlier this year that he just totally lost out on? I can't remember who he had, but I swear he lost a pitcher for the whole year and he had to drop him.
Jared Jones is on Justin's team.
Okay,
I don't know about. I
it
can't.
wasn't Garrett Cole. I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember who else. Who knows? But
The only thing I'll push back a little bit on the closers. I don't know if Doval is going to be good enough to keep the role. He's been good in a setup role, and he's still striking out less than a batter an inning, just like Finnegan is. And I don't know if Finnegan, like he's been okay. He's going to carry a high whip as he normally does, and I feel like it's only a matter of time before the ERA falls off or they trade him. So I don't know. I'm not as confident as you are as both these closers, either one of them being the closer 3 weeks from now or 6 weeks from now or
I
after.
don't know. But Duvall's done it before. Duvall's had 2 seasons of being a pretty damn good closer. So I don't know. I mean, it's not like it's not like he's new to it.
Yeah. All right, so now we'll go to Dex's team here. I think Dex has made what, one
Do we
trade?
want to say where we had Dane on the rankings?
Oh, I have him actually. Yeah, thank you. I have him at third actually because I think that his team is pretty complete.
And I got him at 4, which is actually technically a spot dropping. That could just be a little bit from his slow start and stuff. But like I said, I think I said before the season, I think the top 4 are a lot higher than everybody else. And granted, no, he's not one of those roto teams. You're not one of those roto teams right now. But I do think there is a little bit of a. I thought there was a little bit of a gap between 1 through 4 and everyone else, and I still think he's in that tiers. So
Mhm.
I got him at 4.
Yeah. All right. This offseason he traded he traded Max Muncy to get Stanton and Lodolo. Kind of a wash there. Unless he kept any of these guys that probably hurt him more in the long run. Did he kept Lodolo or Stanton? I can't remember.
I
Things.
don't know either. It would say on their if you click on their card and you go over to the tab to transaction history, it'll actually tell you.
Yeah. Let's see here. Uh, Lodolo traded away. Yeah, it looks like he wasn't kept. And so he wasn't kept, and Stanton, I don't think he was kept either.
So it ended up being nothing.
Yeah, so it ended up being nothing anyway. Max Muncy, I think, was kept, but that's not here nor there. So I guess that's an F because you gave away a player that was kept for a player that wasn't, or you can say, well, it's actually a B because Max Muncy wasn't worth the salary anyway. And then he gave up Santander, got Castillo, who in the last month has been a lot better. 2.5 ERA in the last month. 27 strikeouts in 36 innings, 1.16 whip, and 5 wins quality starts. So Santander, who has been really bad, so I'll give this one an A because I don't think
Yeah.
Castillo will be great rest of season and be himself, but Santander is not useful either.
No, I'd agree with you. I think Castillo's, like I said, solid. He's something you can count on. I know the way Krim was going at it, but for Dexter's perspective, we'll look at his team in a minute. I think it made a lot of sense.
I'll let you take the lead on Dex's team here. I'll be
Like
right
I
back.
said, I liked Dexter's team coming in. I think you were down on it a little bit more than me. I had him as eighth. I mean, I had him right there as a fringe playoff team heading in, right there with. I think I had looking at it now. I had Phil at six, Dave seven, Dexter eight. So I like Dexter's team heading into the year. He was the team that had a ton of money coming into the draft, could kind of control the draft a little bit, and I think he, for the most part, did a pretty good job of it. Willie Contreras is one of the best hitting catchers in baseball. Freddie Freeman is doing Freddie Freeman things. Nico Horner, to me, is borderline unstartable as a fantasy player. Sorry, I know most of us are Cubs fans here, but that's tough to do. I mean, if he gets over 100 runs, sure, and if he steals 30 bags, sure, but to literally have 0 home runs is tough. But looking at his lineup, I don't see a ton of. I mean, there are some holes. Norby, do you want him starting every day? Probably not. Willie Castro every day? Probably not. But Jason Dominguez has been as advertised so far. I think he's done really well in that lineup. As I mentioned earlier, I think Riley Green is a star. Whoa. Having some issues here. I do think Riley Green is a star. I mean, he's proven it. He's in one of the best. He's on the best team in the best lineup right there. So Riley Green's a stud. Even Gurriel's putting up okay counting stats. George Springer has been kind of taking the clock this year. Michael Busch, us Cubs fans know, is kind of that quiet cog in the lineup that nobody really talks about that just kind of produces. I do think the lineup is missing. Again, he just traded away Santander. That was, I guess, the big bat, even though it's been struggling. I do think he's missing maybe one more solid bat to pair with Green and Freeman and Contreras. I don't know if Springer keeps it up all year. I don't know if Bo Bichette's even having a little bit of a bounce back year himself. Not great, but enough to keep this team on top. And honestly, the bench is kind of solid. I mean, he's got guys you can just throw in there at all different kinds of positions everywhere, would have it. Not bad names, not great names, but not bad. Sucks about Nuevo Marte. I'm still waiting for him to do any. When he's on the field, he's going to be great. But if he stops taking PEDs and all that kind of stuff, we'll see. In the small sample size he played, Nuevo Marte was pretty damn good. But pitching wise, like I said, I think it's fine. Yamamoto is disgusting. I think you could say Dexter has the best closer combo in the league in Helsley and Hader. Amazing stuff.
I'd still call it second.
Lodolo's been great. Pepit's been great. I mean, really, it's come down to he's hit on like every pitcher. I mean, Lodolo, Ryan Pepit, Yamamoto has been amazing. Hader's bounced back. He just acquired Luis Castillo.
Oh wait, I thought we just said he didn't keep. It didn't show up that he kept him. So Lodolo is a $4 B, so he must have been kept.
Yeah. I thought it did say on the card it was kept, but maybe I was wrong. But even Lugo on his bench, solid. Bowden Francis has not been good. Alcantara, we're waiting for him to kind of become Alcantara again. So I'm a little worried about the depth on Dexter's team overall. But honestly, like I do think there could be a trade to be made, but Dexter's team's going to kind of hang in there as long as he doesn't blow it apart or do anything super duper crazy. I do think it's going to blow it. I think he's going to kind of hold fort for the most part. I think it's pretty solid.
I take it. I have to take it back. I will give him the Max Muncy trade. He gets an A plus. Lodolo for $4 has been very, very
Really good.
way better than Max Muncy has been for his salary. So that's an A plus trade getting Lodolo.
And I can see a world where Castillo, Lodolo, Pepa, Yamamoto,
Pepio? Is that what you're trying to say?
What's that?
Ryan Pepio, is that what you're trying to say?
Hapio, whatever it is, yeah. I can see a world in where they do kind of keep this up. I don't think any of them are necessarily overperforming, so I don't see like a big regression coming. I don't see someone completely falling off. If anything, Giolito could get better. So Dexter's rotation, I think, is perfectly solid. I think the closers make it even above average, like probably one of the better overall rotations in the league. And then he's got a couple bats in there that is going to keep him in it every time. So I think Dexter's team, again, kind of where I had it preseason, it's going to be fighting for a playoff spot all the way through, as long as he doesn't blow it up or do something silly.
Yeah, I'm kind of wrestling with this one a little bit because I was a little bit lower on it. I have him a lot lower in my rankings than you do yours, and I think it's maybe because I haven't seen a whole lot of transactions from him to kind of supplement some of the holes here. Right now, he's got an open bench spot even, and I think the rotation is okay. I think it could use a little more strikeout formula here, but he is getting that a little bit from his closers, not in a way that some of the other closers have much bigger strikeout rates, like an Edwin Diaz or Andres Munoz or Mason Miller kind of strikes out guys. But obviously, Hader and Helsley, I'd call it the second best closing duo in the league. Carries some high salary there, but pretty solid as advertised. What you'd kind of want out of those guys. Helsley a little bit higher of a whip, but I think that's going to come back down. Yamamoto's been really great. Pepio, solid. Lodolo, great. Giolito, not great. You could argue he'll be a little bit better, or maybe he just doesn't really have it anymore. I'm not really sure. It's been a while since we actually saw him be good. Several, 4 or 5 years since we've seen him actually be decent for a whole year. And Castillo, I just don't really think that Castillo really has a whole lot left in the tank from an A standpoint. I think the 3.03 ERA is going to go up even than what he is right now, just because 55 strikeouts in 66 innings. I know he's not like a never been a big strikeout guy,
Sure.
but I think when you start to see those strikeout numbers dip is when you start to see pitchers just lose their effectiveness a little bit. Because if they're not missing bats anymore, then they're not going to be as elite. It's harder to be an effective pitcher when you're not striking out at least one an inning.
Yeah.
I think the lineup has too many holes with not enough stars to cover them up because, like you said, you don't really have the stars, and you called Riley Green a stud, and you have Freeman here, but between Riley Green and Freeman, like I don't think those are either neither one of them is a five category producer, and Freeman's not going to cover you up from a power standpoint because he's not going to hit 35 home runs, and Riley Green's not going to steal any bases, and we'll kind of see if he continues doing what he's doing now, which has been solid, but what he'll do kind of rest of year. But I think that there's too many guys in the lineup here that are fringe fantasy guys between Dominguez, Castro, Norby, Horner. I mean, those four right there are not guys you really want in your lineup anywhere near your lineup for fantasy purposes. Yet Springer's been playing well recently. Bush a little bit in the platoon, but still overall numbers solid. You just wish that he was playing every day. And Bichette has been a little bit of a bounce back. Still not where you want him to be from what peak Bo Bichette was, but not bad. And you're a little bit higher on the bench than I am. I think Tovar can be a little bit decent, but the other guys are just okay. I don't really love
I
either
mean,
one
it
of
sounds
those
like
guys.
a bench. Your bench shouldn't be great, right? They should
Yeah,
be.
and I actually think that Seattle called up that prospect that's going to take some of the playing time away from Dylan Moore.
Yeah.
He's out of lineup yesterday with sits third straight game. He was on the bench. So despite the 8 home runs and the 8 steals, he's not a guy you can rely on to be in the lineup. So you're going to get low counting stats there. So I think the offense just doesn't have enough juice. It doesn't have stars, and it just has too many guys that aren't going to produce from a fantasy standpoint in it to kind of cover, even if the pitching staff is above average. It's just hard to see a path here to this team being
Well, and that's why I think he's much more set up as, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more, especially in the next show when we get into July and we're a little bit deeper into the Roto season and overall. I think he's more set up as a head-to-head guy than a Roto. Like you said, I don't see like where he's going to catch up on certain. Like you can't have a dude with. I mean, he's got three dudes in his lineup: 0 home runs, 3 home runs, You're
Yep.
just not going to catch up in categories doing that. Even steals wise, only Nico
Well,
Horner's
he's
really
only
getting
got one
steals.
guy in double digit home runs right now.
Right. So, and that's what I'm saying. I think this team's very much more set up as like a head-to-head,
Yeah.
scrappy. They're never going to win 8, 9 categories, but I do think Dexter's team week in and week out is going to be right around 500. They're going to win 4 or 5 categories, whether it's a couple hitting, a couple pitching, whatever it might be. I think this team's probably a league average fighting for a playoff team.
Yeah. I have him down at 10th.
Okay. Where did you have him to start the year?
I had him down there 10th. That's exactly where I had him.
Okay, so he's not really necessarily impressed you. Just
No.
kind of been. I have him now at 5. I mean, I
Up
think this team.
eighth.
What's up?
Yeah, that's up from eighth.
Yeah, I had him 8th in the preseason. I liked him a little bit more than you, and I got him up to 5 now. Again, I just sometimes it's easy to say like, oh, this is one of the best teams, and then sometimes I think I forget to look at some teams that are just solid, and I don't really see them becoming unsolid. Like I don't really see any of these guys falling off. I
I
don't
I
really
think
see any of these guys. I
I
don't
think
know.
putting this team ahead of Bryce's team is criminal.
You think so?
That's my opinion. Hey, they're your
I mean,
power.
you got to remember though that I said
You've been more
Bryce's
right
team
on this team than I have, considering he's second best head-to-head record.
right, and you also had Bryce number 1 in the league, and he's under 500. So
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, the numbers kind of got to speak for themselves at some point, right? Come on now.
yeah, yeah, a little bit. All right, let's move to your team here. Well, I'll click on your trades here. Why don't you recap some of the trades you pulled off so far, and are you regretting any of the offseason trades so far, or anything like that?
Let's see here. I did the first trade of the offseason there, pretty good. Oh wait, never mind. That
Yep.
was last year, right? Or was that?
Oh yeah, I mean that was the offseason, no, November 21st.
Yeah, where I got Vlad. Yeah, because a lot of those were big salary moves because I had a lot of superstars, so I traded away Vlad, got Jordan, um, and traded away Logan Webb for Bryce Miller to free up salary. Then a lot of these really kind of what we talked about with other trades have kind of been a wash, like the Corey Seager, Bryce Miller. Then I traded, Corey Seager for Steele. That made a big conundrum in the chat, and then it ended up not meaning anything because Steele got hurt and Seager,
Yeah.
I mean, arguably Seager's been better. So, because he's played. But the one that helped me out a lot, I think, weirdly enough, is going to be the Jordan one. I know he hasn't done anything this year, and Suarez has. We could say, hey, man, you'd rather have Suarez in your lineup right now, right? And I would because he's been playing and Alvarez hasn't. But to me, that speaks volumes that my offense has been that good, and I haven't had Alvarez. I haven't really had Vlad during his prime and stuff like that. So the fact that Alvarez is still waiting in the wings, I'm more trusting of him than Suarez rest of the year for sure.
Mhm.
The other big trade there, obviously, was the one I did at the start of May, which was I got Gore, Caminero, and Manzardo for Guerrero and Waka. We talked about this from Bryce's perspective earlier. From my perspective, really, I felt like I needed, if there was anything, I obviously had the bats. I didn't need another bat. So I pretty much said, hey, let me get a pitcher. Let me get one that I think I can count on. I need strikeouts. And also, if Gore keeps doing what he's doing, he's probably one of the best $1 contracts in the league. So it just made sense for me. I replaced Guerrero with Manzardo at first. I already had a bevy of first baseman there with Flores. Now I got Bellinger there, as you can see in that other trade. So really, it's all about kind of maneuvering my team to make sure my team's kind of balanced all the way through. I don't think I've regretted any trades necessarily. Maybe some of those offseason trades could have went a little bit better in hindsight, but I don't really think any of them have hurt me very much to this point. So Logan Webb was a tough one because I think at his price, I think going into the draft, he would have been a $34 keeper. Looking back on it, could I have kept him? Yes. But again, I also think of who would I not have kept? And that's where it's just like, that's too much of the what if game there. But if there was one, it might have been holding on to Logan Webb.
Yeah, but I mean, Logan Webb just kind of he is what he is, at this point. Obviously, Bryce Miller hasn't performed what you've wanted him to, but Logan Webb, he's just going to be a ho hum strikeout, about a batted inning. Looks like a little bit more this year.
Yeah.
2.82 ERA is an asset, 1.21 WHIP kind of brings that down because he is kind of the ground ball pitcher there. So the
Yeah.
WHIP is a little bit higher. Yeah, I mean, everything was just kind of seems like it's just been moving pieces around for you. I don't think there's been a big win or a big loss anywhere, any direction here. Obviously, it still didn't get hurt. That would have been a big one
Oh,
considering how,
yeah.
how Corey Seager has performed this year, and he's been hurt and the salary savings there. But
And I
because,
kind of had to make that move, the Gore move, because Steele went down. It's one of those things like, hey, maybe I do still have Vlad on my team if Justin Steele doesn't go down. So
yeah,
I think the one thing I did decently of in the offseason was making sure even if I did have someone go down or underperform, which I've had, I've still had the kind of reinforcements to keep going.
yeah, and I think that even like Caminero, I think has at this point he's got 13 homers, 37 RBIs, 30 runs scored. That's better than Vlad's 35 runs, 8 RBIs, and 8 home runs, 28 RBIs. So
Yeah.
I think you're
And I
getting
looked at
Ryan
Caminero as a
Moore.
flyer. I mean, Caminero
Yeah.
hasn't started once for me this year. He probably won't until he really starts heating up. But I looked at it as, hey, if this is a guy I can keep at the end of the year as one of my possible guys moving forward, ceiling wise, who knows?
Well, so send Caminero my way then. And then, so yeah, I think that overall, we really haven't graded each of these. So we have the Jordan, getting Jordan for Suarez and Garcia with the Jordan injury. That hurts obviously. So you're gonna have to probably get a D for this one because of how well Suarez has played with his 16 homers and 44 RBIs.
Sure.
I like that trade for you in the time because I was like, oh man, you got Jordan Alvarez. Adding another stud to the lineup. All you have to do is give up Garcia, who's a part-time player, who's not really all that good, and then Suarez, who was, flash in the pan. But overall, Suarez has been really exactly what you would have wanted Jordan Alvarez to be this year.
Yeah.
Which is,
And like I said,
so.
one of those things with Suarez too is I had him all off season and nobody wanted him, and I didn't understand why I had him all off season. He was cheap, nobody wanted him. All of a sudden, he hits 5 home runs in the first 2 games, and then everyone wanted him.
Yep. So yeah, so the overall that's not a great trade there. You're gonna get a D for that one just because of the Alvarez injury, but it's hard to give you a grade based on a guy getting hurt rather than you can't really predict that. The Vlad deal, trading away Vlad and Waka, getting back Gore, Caminero, Manzardo, you're probably gonna get like a B plus for this one because I think it worked really well for both teams actually. They both kind of got what they wanted, got what they needed, and the returns that they got have kind of performed how they've wanted them to. And I would have been a little bit better if you'd had Caminero in your lineup last week, but before then he looked like he was really struggling. And then
Yeah.
recently, I'm going to give you because I gave a C plus, I'm going to give you a C minus because I think that Bellinger is wait, no, you
I got
acquired
Bellinger.
Bellinger. Okay, so you get the C plus, and then Dana gets a C minus because I think Bellinger is better than Wilson. So overall, I think you're coming out ahead in a lot of these trades.
Yeah, not too bad. Like I said, I don't think there's anyone that has really shaken the season where it's like catapulted me into the number one team either. I think it's a lot of it's kind of holding forward or, like you said, moving pieces around. So
Yeah. All right. So how you feeling about your lineup right now?
I mean, I feel pretty good about it. Like I said, to begin the season, I said that
Yeah,
I
I'd
thought it was
hope
me,
so.
Dane,
You're a
and
number one
Dave
roto
had
team.
the. I know. I think before the season, I said me, Dane, and Dave had the best offenses, and I really like my offense. I mean, I couldn't speak higher on it. I like it a lot. I don't think there's really a single spot in the lineup that I could really improve a ton
League leading
with kind of
64 roto points in hitting in offense.
yeah. And hey, I got 3 out of the 4 top offenses right so far, so not too bad. With Chad in there as well. So, yeah, I like my team. Like I said, I don't really think there's even a single spot in my lineup that you can go, you could replace that. Manzardo maybe first base, but it's just one of those things where everyone's kind of been performing well. I got a ton of RBIs. It makes me wonder. I mean, I have some of the most RBIs in the league with Schwarber and Suzuki and Flores. It makes me wonder if I had Suarez too. It would just be stupid because I think I have like a 60 or 70 RBI lead on the next team. So if
Yep.
I would have had Suarez this whole time, that would have been nuts. But
Mhm.
I think I got decent depth. I know we're not really talking about keepers for next year, but the fact that I can kind of sit there with Caminero, Mayo, and Anthony on my bench and just kind of hold them all year and just
Mhm.
wait for next year whenever they want to start coming up and doing something, I think is pretty good.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jordan's going to come back soon. The pitching wise has always kind of been the thing I've worried about a little bit. But again, I went into the season pretty confident in my pitching. I didn't think they were super duper elite names, but having Senga, Gosman, and Gilbert, I felt like were going to take me pretty far, and they have. I mean, Reese Olson's been as good as I thought he would be again. I've even picked up some waiver guys. Jake Irvin, again, the K's aren't there, but to just have him go in there in my lineup a couple times. Smith from Chicago has been pretty solid for me. So I did it last year, and I feel like so far I do a pretty good job of being able to pick up some waiver guys that can just come in and pitch for me a little bit here and there. But Senga's been absolutely amazing. Gosman's been really, really good. And closer wise, I got
Didn't
three
start the year
closers.
great, but man, he has really picked it up. He's
Yeah,
looking like vintage Gausman
yeah,
lately.
he is. And again, for a $15 guy, when it didn't seem like you can get any pitchers for under $20 in the draft, I felt like he kind of slid under the radar there. So overall, I don't hate my pitching. If anything, my closers have kind of struggled.
Yeah.
So when they actually do get going, Pagan, if whether he holds on to it or not, even if he doesn't, McGill and Iglesias has kind of been awful so far. But once they get going, I'm right at that weird pack of saves where if I get a few more, I'm going to jump up quite a bit of points too. So I think I've done a pretty good job of kind of keeping it all the way balanced so far.
Yeah, and you got we got three closers in there, but if you get Gausman and Gore keep striking out the guys that they are, maybe you won't lose too much ground in strikeouts by having your three guys. And you just might lose some wins quality starts, but we'll see. Sugano also
Right.
for every strikeout you're getting with Gore over one, Sugano's probably taking that away. Same thing with Irvin because they're so well below the strikeout
Oh yeah.
floor of what they should
And
be.
I just and I just picked up Sagano, so he hasn't really played for me yet. I mainly had Reese Olson, like I said. Logan Gilbert's been down there, so
Yeah. But obviously, the offense is great. Not really any holes there. You got you got the steals, obviously, with J Ram and Ellie. You got the power, you got the RBIs in a lot of different places. No real holes there throughout the lineup. And then yeah, the rotation, which is looking a little bit shaky now, but once it turns into Gilbert, Gore, Senga, Gausman, and Reese Olson with two of those closers, then that's looking pretty solid. Like it's pretty tough to beat, looking like it's going to be my number one power ranked team in the league.
all
So
right.
you gave me the number one. I got to give it back to you because
Oh, look at that. We're
we
sucking each
gotta
other. Look at
we gotta
that.
try and jinx one another any way we can, right?
Yeah,
And we're not gonna put ourselves at number one for Christ's sake. We can't do
never.
that. So we gotta, I think we each put ourselves as two and the other. Yep, we put our no.
Yeah,
Yeah, we put ourselves as two and the other at one. So yeah, just this is just the commissioner and co-commish cockfest over here, just sucking each other off.
damn right.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I
Hey,
like
man. Hey, it shows we got the.
at least we're experts in the field, right?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. We're trying.
At least
And
we're a little
another
bit
one too that
qualified.
I liked a lot too that kind of slid under the draft. You've heard me talk about him before. He slowed off a little bit, but even like a Zach Nito, I think
Yeah.
was someone in the draft, especially at a position where again it's kind of hard to sometimes find shortstops. I had a lot of them coming in. I really like that Nito pick a lot. So
I couldn't believe that you didn't even there was no conversation on that trade offer I sent you.
I can't even remember. It was probably so brutal.
It
Go into our messages right there.
it
What
was it
was it?
was
Let's see it.
it was Gunner for Neto and Suzuki.
Yeah, that's bad. No way, dude.
All right.
First off, you can't keep Gunner, right?
No.
Okay, so I'm giving let's so Suzuki's very much outperformed Gunner, and then I'm giving up 3 years of Zach Nito.
2.5 years. We'll see. We'll see at what he is
But
kind
two
of.
and a half, and he's playing better than Gunner now. So why would I do that?
You think that Zach Neto's gonna be better than Gunnar Henderson the rest of the year? I don't get the previous stats. I only get going forward.
I see what you're saying, but to also give up Suzuki, who's on pace for 30 homers and 100 RBIs, like Gunner had 30 home runs and 100 RBIs last year. So why would I do that?
I would bet money that Gunnar will still be better than Seiya and better than Neto rest of year. He might not be better than the two of them combined, but I still would put my money on Gunnar being
Marginally better,
better fantasy baseball player than both of
like
those.
marginally better, because again, Gunner
I
had,
can't say that anymore because of just Gunnar, just the power just isn't there right now. I think the oblique. I think he just needs a little bit more
right.
time.
Well, my thing is too, and again, a lot of it's pace and stuff. But again, if Gunner was 30 and 100 last year, and Suzuki's going to be 30 and 100, and also there's Zach Neto giving me 30 and 30.
He also has steals there too, though.
It does well. So is Nito.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that Gunnar will be better. He will be basically the combination of Suzuki and Neto combined is Gunnar.
Oh, I don't know, man. You're crazy. I didn't even think twice about declining that one.
That's wild.
How is that wild, dude? You're getting a
Preseason,
$9
that's an
Zach
immediate
Neto.
accept.
What's that?
Preseason, you accept that immediately.
Maybe, dude. A
And you're
lot
the
of
one
people.
and you're the one that says like, oh, it's hard, sample size with Devers, this and that. And I granted
You're
it's
probably
larger
right.
sample size, 2 months now, but I still think that for a large majority, unless things significantly change for something for whatever reason, like I'm still sticking to like what players mostly are, especially veteran players. And Gunner's not a veteran, but like for the most part, I think players are what they are until they prove that they're not. I don't think that Gunner's just going to finish the year with 10 home runs and 30 RBIs.
No, I don't think so either. But would it be crazy to say, oh, he had a little bit of a down year? He's got 22 homers and 80 RBIs, and
I think
a
he's doing the
2.7.
Austin Riley from last year. He's recovering from the oblique, and then in the second half last year, he's going to
And
kind
you
of.
want me to take that on? Like, come
He's
on now. Dude,
he's
Zach Neto last year was a 20-30 guy. Last year. Like, this isn't like, oh, we'll see if he keeps it up. Zach Neto last year was 20 and 30.
Mhm.
Like, I really don't think the window between Gunner and Neto is actually as big as you think it is from a fantasy perspective.
Because that's saying
I mean, really.
that's saying a wild thing one way or the other. Because you're either insinuating that Neto is a top 50 overall player or that Gunner is not a top 50 overall player, and both of those things are absurd statements.
What I'm saying is I don't think they're that far off. So if
So
Gunner
are
has
they closer to 50 or are they closer to 100 each?
I think Nito's closer to 50. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, really, last year Gunner was a 37 and 21 guy. He didn't have 100 RBIs, but he was. I mean, yeah, numbers are disgustingly good, But again, if you bring up Nito's numbers last year, and we always talk about salary and how much value you're getting from it. Zach Nito last year had 23 home runs, so about 10 less, 15 less RBIs, more steals. On base is different, yeah, but I don't to give up Suzuki on top of it. We're talking another 100 RBIs and 30 home runs. I mean, there's just no way. Oh, and I get to keep Nito.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're crazy, dude. You're crazy.
You, yeah, no, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop right there. All right, so we have next we have Jordan's team, Linska prematurely, the reigning champion here, who
Oof.
not going to be our reign, not going to be a back-to-back
All from
champion.
Grace, man.
I've been calling it since week one. He was my number 12 team week one, number 14 team week one. He's going to be my number 14 team once again right now. This team is absolutely brutal. Let's see if he did anything to help it or hurt it in the trades here. Starting off, he got
I
rid of.
think what hurt him a lot, honestly, what hurt him a lot, honestly, I think was the offseason trades. When we look at the names, it's not going to look so bad, but it's harder to look at it now, obviously, without looking at the salaries and stuff
Yeah,
like that. I don't think he lost the trades massively, but I think he lost each trade by a little bit
marginally.
where
Yep.
it just added up to like, what the fuck did you do?
Yeah, I kind of thought the same way in the offseason, and you have to feel the same way now. So he gave up Vlad, got Stott, Rodon, and Steer, which in a vacuum, Rodon has been pretty solid if he was kept.
But I don't think any of
Which
those dudes are even on his team anymore,
yeah,
are
I
they?
don't
I don't
think I
know.
don't think they were either, but maybe I think Rodon actually is Rodon.
Okay.
Yep, Rodon was kept for 17, and he's been really good for him. So I would say Rodon for Vlad. I mean, overall, this one actually is probably just a break even because a
Yeah.
$17 Rodon versus a $29 Vlad, and Vlad's probably underperformed. And then Stott and Steer both haven't been good. So maybe keep at the cost of keeping Stott and Steer has kind of hurt him. The opportunity cost of what those players and what that salary could have been
Hey,
isn't.
man, you're hating on Stott, but we'll
Yeah, I
roll
am.
with it.
Then he turned his Bryce Miller into Jordan and Webb, who he ended up flipping anyway. So we'll see. We'll table that one. He gave away Scherzer, Machado, Freeman, and got back Bybee and Gallen, who I believe he also flipped later. Let's see here. He gave up Bybee for Pasquantino, and Pasquantino has been okay, not great. 8 home runs, 31 RBIs, and a 310 OBP. Not really what you wanted out of your first baseman. You wanted a little bit more than that. The trade with Chad, who we've kind of just said kind of was a little bit of a wash. I mean, giving up Gallon, okay, Sanchez, fine, and Carrasco and Volpe, I think is getting rid of Volpe is a tough one. Gray has been pretty solid. Wynn has been not great, and Flaherty has been okay. I think he actually probably comes slightly ahead on this one because I think Flaherty's been decent. He's getting better. Wynn has been okay, not at Volpe level, but okay. You want more steals out of him, and Gray's been pretty solid, but again, it's kind of the opportunity cost here. Um, and then that brings us to kind of the ones we haven't talked about, these last three here, which are giving up Jordan for Suarez and Garcia. That's overall been a net big time plus for him.
Yep.
Giving Victor Scott, getting back Kenley, who Victor Scott was kind of his fifth outfielder anyway. Getting back Kenley, who's been helpful. He needed a closer. And then lately, this is just kind of the rebuild trade, Bradish for Stott. So actually, I'm seeing a lot of these trades where he got marginally better. I just think that
Once the season started, maybe.
well, no, because I think he won the Chad trade, getting Flaherty, Wynn, and Gray for Gallen, Sanchez, CES, and Volpe.
Maybe.
He won the Jordan Alvarez trade, getting Suarez and Garcia. I'd say net neutral for Scott and Jansen. I'd say he broke Bybee. Yeah, broke even on the Bybee for Pasquantino. They've both been underwhelming, but he did save some money there. And yeah, he didn't really give up anything that I'm like, man, what's the piece that he gave up that he's like, man, he really wishes he still had this.
Well, I didn't like the Volpe for win one there, but
Well, he also got Sonny Gray and Flaherty though out of it.
yeah, but
That's what it
Sanchez too.
turns
I mean,
into. It turns into Volpe for Sonny Gray, Colt Key,
right,
or
but Sanchez has been solid too. I mean, has Gray been that much better than I mean,
a
it's
little
not.
bit, a little bit in the whip is
Yeah.
probably the biggest thing.
So I mean, between that and then the Volpe being better than Win,
By a little bit.
I'd say by more than a little bit.
The counting stats are a little bit of a gap. 28, 6, 33, 7, and a 321 versus Win, who's 34 runs, 20 RBIs, 6 home runs.
Yeah, it's close. Yeah,
Two
it's pretty
steals
much a
and three.
wash.
Yeah. So, and I think that the difference maker is, I guess, Flaherty for Gallon. So it all just
Well,
kind of
overall, yeah,
anyway.
pretty even.
But I think all those most of these trades he came out marginally even. The problem is that he can't, I hated his team the whole time. There's ever been a
Yeah.
time where I liked his team. So, he's just a shiny turd now, is what he comes out looking like in these different deals here. So I mean, overall, I think his transactions, he came out ahead. I mean, I didn't really give grades for all of them. I didn't think I give grades for any of them, but I mean, I feel like he just gets B pluses almost across the board on almost all of them, maybe like a B on the Chad trade. Anything more you want to add to that before we go to his actual team?
No, not too much. Like I said, I just think he's. Yeah, no, not really. Yeah, I think he struggled a little bit with some of those deals.
The thing about his team is that I just think that he kept too many high salary guys that just didn't perform at over salary level. Because, like I kind of said in the off season or on a draft day, it's like your goal is to maximize your $300. Is I feel like you win this league by getting $400 of value out of your $300 budget. And so, like through your keepers, through draft steals and sleepers and all that kind of stuff, you end up making in more value out of what your budget is. And it seems like with his budget, he left the draft with he spent his $300 and had $300 worth of players. Like all his players are just kind of at value. Carpenter's performed like a $5 player, Quan like a $5 player, Steer like a $10 player, probably less. Nobody's really overperformed.
Well, and where's his star? I mean,
Yeah,
literally, look at that lineup. Where's that guy that's like, oh man, that's the
yeah.
best player in your lineup? I mean,
Mhm.
his lineup. I would argue. I'm not saying there's not value there with what Abreu's been able to do, and like you said, Carpenter, Suarez, but like this could be one of the worst lineups in the league. I mean, this is bad,
Yeah, it
right?
is bad. I mean, but he had Vlad and he had Jordan, and then he turned it into Suarez, which is okay. But yeah, it's not certainly not star-studded in any way that's meaningful. But he doesn't really have the pieces to make that happen, and it wouldn't do him any good anyway.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and that's kind of what I'm getting at. I think that a lot of these guys could be your sixth or seventh best player in your lineup, but when they're your second or third best player in your lineup, you're just not going to get very far with it. And it's kind of the same thing with the rotation. I think his rotation's actually kind of treaded water. You have a lot of dudes under a 4 ERA. You got Flaherty, you got Sonny Gray, McGill's been solid, Rodon's been excellent, Logan Webb's been really good. So I mean, his pitching's held fort and done fine. Don't hate it. Do I think McGill keeps it up? Maybe. Do I think Rodon keeps a 2.6 ERA the rest of the year? Probably not. But his pitching really isn't much of a problem. It's really just the lineup it just doesn't have any
so,
superstars. It's really
so
missing
where did
that.
things go wrong for Jordan here?
Well, the fact that he did have a Vlad and again, would it have made a difference based on how they're playing? Probably not.
Yeah.
But he did have a Vlad and a Jordan or one of the other,
It would have
and
made
that's
his
how.
team having those two players would have made his team significantly worse than even it is right now, though.
I don't know about significantly. Vlad's been okay. I mean, Vlad's been fine. His power numbers aren't there, but we'd have to really go back and look at all the stuff he would have lost out without Vlad. But would he be better off right now with Vlad than Logan Webb? I think so.
Well, he got Rodon, so Rodon, Stott, and
Yeah,
Steer.
would he be better? Would he be better with Vlad than Rodon? I would say yes.
I don't think so. I
Rodon's
think Rodon
played
has been
better
more
this year,
productive
but
than Vlad has been.
Rodon's played better this year. But if you look at Vlad's stats. I think you're shitting on him a little too much. His power numbers ain't there, but
Comes to the defense of Vlad. Nobody's going to hate on
um,
Vlad. 8 home runs, 28 RBIs out of your first baseman.
well, I know. That's
No
what I said.
steals.
But I don't think it's as bad as you're making it out to be. The dude's got an elite OBP. He's got 35 runs scored. I mean, like
He's
what I'm saying is, I know Rodon to this point has probably had a more productive fantasy
That's what I'm
season.
saying.
But with what Jordan needs, I would rather have Vlad than Rodon on that team because I think he has the pitching where he could lose a Rodon somewhat. I mean, it doesn't matter. This team's shit anyway, right?
Yeah.
But if I think his team would be better with Vlad than Rodon. Yes.
I disagree because I think that if he had Jordan instead of Suarez, and if he had Vlad instead of Rodon, he would be much, much worse as a team than he would be right now.
And what's much worse than what he's at?
Exactly, but it's true. But I think the thing here is like the opportunity cost of keeping guys that didn't move the needle and drafting guys that didn't really move the needle too. Like you got your Carpenters, your Quans, your Donovans. Like I wouldn't have kept Brendan Donovan. He's not like a fantasy type kind of player that you really want on your team. It's like the better real life player than a
Yeah,
fantasy.
but a $1 player, why not? If you don't
But
have
when you
12
have that to
keepers, I
your
don't really
entire
get that
team
one.
as these $1 type players of these
Yeah.
Colt Keiths and these Dalton Rushings, and he drafted a few prospects in these Dalton Rushings and
It's the Vinny Pasquinitos that shouldn't have been kept.
Yeah, Pasquantino maybe. Luis Garcia for $6, the guy he drafted, and just overall, it just leaves you wanting a whole lot more because I look at this team in the preseason. I'm like, who's going to hit for this team? And that's kind of been the overall epitome of it. And I'm not really sure where his salary is. Like, what did he end up spending his money on? He's only got $189 here of active lineup. And I'm not
Yeah,
really sure where it all went. But yeah, just I guess it's underperforms as an offense, okay performances from the pitching staff, but certainly just not enough to weather the entire storm, especially when Walker and Jansen have been not great from an ERA whip standpoint. And Sonny Gray and Rodon have been and Webb have been solid. I mean, 1, 2, 3, that's fine. Flaherty and McGill as his 4 or 5. Like the pitching staff's actually pretty decent. I guess yeah,
yeah,
just an offense thing. And I guess the
yeah.
pitching
I mean,
staff
I got Jordan
is
at
decent.
13.
Like it's probably a top 5 pitching staff, but not like top two, not Phil level.
No, And I got Jordan at 13, which is where I had him at the beginning of the year. I mean, even though he's made a couple trades, as we've mentioned, they kind of been washed out. Really haven't made much of a difference here. Again, he's just. I hate to say it, but this is just a team that kind of needs a redo, a refresh, because there's some guys he's going to be able to keep, like you said. I think a lot of these cheap players can just be kept to add depth to your team, but you need those stars on top to really ride it. I mean, this is a team that could have used a James Wood for 30 or had gone after a Tatis or something like that. I mean, it's just completely missing a superstar bat for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly would have definitely helped instead of spending just nickel and diming everywhere across the
Yeah,
board. Garcias and Arenados and Pasquantinos and Willie Abreu's. You just take all those and you just cash them all in for an A piece and things look a lot different. And then yeah, then it looks Brendan Donovan for $1 looks a lot better when you pair him next to a Tatis.
sure.
No respect for the reigning champ. Sorry. He was at 14 before, he's
No.
at 14 now.
Yeah, I got him at 13. I had him at 13, so no movement there.
Alrighty. Next we will move to Pistol Pleats Platoon. Do we have any
Start
trades
this
we need to
one
worry
off.
about
I'm going to
here?
go pee while you talk
All right.
about.
Let's see here. We have the Platoon here. I hope I don't see an empty page here. Do I? One trade. Oh, the big one. Oh man, he was such a good GM for making this trade, and I'm sad that Eric's not around to smirk and cackle at that comment there. But yeah, Austin Riley's been okay, but worth the money. I don't know. Worth the salary that comes with it. He's been like just okay. But yeah, I mean Peter's team is looking okay, but it's certainly a team that has a lot of holes as well, as we've kind of talked about. Like it's like the worst version of it's like great value Chad is what Peter's trying to pull off here. He's trying to thread a needle here that he is not successfully doing at all, which is you have some stars and you have your Aaron Judges and your Jackson Churios and keeping Austin Riley's, and then you have your Paul Skeens and stuff, and like having those are obviously guys that you want to have. Sorry, I got a little gnat in here that I guess I'm not quick-handed enough to take care of. You have all these stud players and these Schwellenbachs and stuff, but he has not successfully supplemented them with anybody that's worth a damn. Carlos Santana is your starting first baseman, not great. Carson Kelly, you probably picked him up after he was as productive as he is and has been the same since. Jorge Polanco was a great in the first month and hasn't been done jack squat since. He's got 1 home run, 6 runs, and 5 RBIs in the last 30 days. That's not really what you want at all. So I don't think he's really been much of an asset. He could have sold really high on him as a $1 a contract potentially, but I guess not. You're going to stick with where it is. Gavin Lux is not a fantasy asset. Luis Robert Jr. has been bad. Pajes has been pretty solid. Can't disrespect him. Rafaela, another guy who's a better bench player than a real life player, gives a little bit of everything. OBP is not great. 3 home runs isn't great, but a little bit of steals, a little bit of runs scored, but just better off as like a sub, a bench bat. It's not like this team's faced a lot of injuries either. I mean, losing Glass now sucks, but that's what you expect from the Tyler Glass now experience. And it's just I think this team has been a little overperformed, even what it kind of expected when you consider like what Carlos Santana's done the last month, what Jorge Polanco did the first month, what Jackson Holliday's done so far, what Jackson Churio, he's underperformed, but his overall line looks a lot better after what he did this past week. Aaron Judge is on a 60 home run pace again, which you can't really fault him for that. So I think there's some over performances, there's some underperformances. But overall, I just think there's too many holes, and I don't really trust him. And I've tried to enter the slide in the DMs to try and acquire some of his stars to try and get him a little bit more depth to space out some of these guys, but he's not really interested. And he's happy to trot out guys that aren't going to help him, and Gavin Lux and and all these guys, and it's just not working. He's tried to do it for 3 years in a row now, and it hasn't worked a single year. And so I don't know. I'm not really sure what the formula is here, what he's kind of going for here, but I feel like something's kind of got to give here with Pistol Pete's platoon.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the hardest teams to look at, just because the record's there. I mean, the head-to-head record, 52-3, and we've seen this from Peter before. I mean, we're starting to see trends here in our fantasy leagues over the years where his team starts off great, this and that, and does it have the depth when it takes an injury or two, or when someone starts falling off a bit? I'm under the same impression of you, where I think this team has kind of overperformed a little bit. When we look at the roto, he's right in the middle of the league, I think at 80 points. So
Yep.
it's one of those things. It's not like this team hasn't performed, but in the opposite of Chad, where Chad has a below 500 record and head-to-head bad matchups, I'd be curious to see if Peters just kind of had a little bit of an easier roto. I mean, 80 roto points isn't bad. It's league average, but his
Yep.
head-to-head record's really fucking
Like, what,
good.
13
So
points
to me,
behind Chad?
yeah. So I'm thinking he's gotten a little lucky with the matchups, from a head-to-head perspective, because I'm right there with you. I think this team's overperforming a little bit. Carson Kelly, as much as we love him, he's not going to do that all the time. Carlos Santana's 39 years old. I don't see that. I don't see a 370 OBP and 90 RBIs and 90 runs scored from him. Austin Riley's been fine, but he's still not even the same as he used to. This offense is missing some. Cheerio's not taking that next step that he took. Really, it's Aaron Judge. I mean, Aaron Judge is holding this team down right now. So, like you said, Roberts ass. Pajas has been fine from LA. But if you, very similar to the last team we just talked about, Jordan, a little bit better. But if it wasn't for Judge, and then you can maybe argue Riley, the offense is very slacking. And
Yeah.
again, that's easy to say when I'm taking the big two names. I think it's got potential with Holiday and Cheerio and some of these guys, Rafaela, but it's just not there yet. Adley Rushman is on his bench. I mean, Adley Rushman's on
And
his bench.
I
I'm
tried
a
sliding
big
into
Adley guy.
DMs. I
Yeah.
even asked. I asked about, hey, Adley Rutschman on your bench. Like, what do you want for him? And he didn't want to entertain it, and he's just happy
Yeah.
with what he has. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Colton
I asked about Riley. I've asked about Adley. Yeah,
yeah.
just gonna ride
And
it
to
out.
me, I do think the pitching is very solid. Like Wu Skeen Schwallenbach, that's going to play all year. I mean, it is, as long as they stay healthy. I even think Fats had a little bit of a higher ERA than normal. But after those three, I think it's a little scary. It's Cade Horton, it's Myers on Milwaukee that's in the minors now. It's Mitchell Parker, Michael Lorenzen. Again, it's the same tale told again and again about Peter. He doesn't have depth. He's got names on his bench, but none of them matter because it's relievers that aren't closers, or they're starters. It's just, I don't know how to describe his way of doing it, but if Ohtani comes back soon and he can really have Skeens, Wu, Schwallenbach, and Ohtani, no one's really messing with that at all. Again, that's going to play week in and week out. But again, same old, same old. I'm scared of Peter's depth, and I don't think, again, as great as Judge has been and as great as he's going to be the rest of the year, I don't think he's going to finish the year with almost a 500 on base percentage. He's just not. So I think this team's in trouble. I mean, it is. I don't think it's going to hold. I think this team has overplayed its welcome, and I think this is going to be a team we look back on in a month and a half or towards the end of the season that is not going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, I think it's probably good enough just to like be on the fringe, because you're gonna have stellar performances from Judge, from Skeens, from Schwallenbach, from Riley, and I think that it's gonna be good enough that those guys are gonna get hot. Churio, Robert at times like keep them relevant. Like it's not gonna be like dead in the water where it's just, you look at Jordan's team and just like there's no path here. Like sure there is a path here to like him.
I agree. Yeah, there's a path.
Getting hot, but they're just like when some guys are going to get hot, you're just going to have too many other guys that just aren't going to perform well enough for it to be sustainable to be one of our top teams.
Because, like I said, that rotation, nobody wants to face that rotation. But again, when you're pairing it off with Myers and Horton at the end of it, like all they need is one blow up bad start, and then that Schwallenbach 7 inning 0 run start doesn't matter.
Well, it's funny how we touted like, oh, this rotation in 2025 and 20, like it's going to be the greatest ever. And then we look at it and we're like, well, you're still starting Tobias Myers and Cade Horton, and it's still not really what you wanted it to be.
No.
And it's only got one closer, so you're going 5 starters and one closer too.
Now, in the same breath, though, this is a really interesting. And again, I hate to even say it like this because his team's head-to-head wise is in it. Like he's very much in this. Like there's no doubt about it. But he is a team that makes me wonder if for some reason he does fall out of it, like we both think he might. What because he doesn't really trade much, what these kinds of guys can bring. What does a Judge bring at the table? What does some of these pitchers bring at the table?
About
Because
anything.
because those are, I mean, if those guys keep it up, those are still some of the best contracts in the league. Schwallenbach at 27, if he keeps it up. Paul Skeens obviously $18 next year. Brian Wu $16 next year. I mean, we're talking three of the best pitcher values in the entire league right there.
Mhm.
So
I thought you were going to go another direction with that because I think like if we're talking like the path like of if this team just squeaks in as the sixth seed and like it gets healthy, like this is a team I wouldn't want to face in round one. If
yeah,
he's going to
that
roll out
pitching
a
could just dominate
rotation
you.
in 2 months of it's going to be Skeens, Schwellenbach, Wu, Glasnow, McClanahan, and like
Yeah.
in 2 months around, and then maybe even Otani into there with Bautista getting saves. Like, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Well,
Not
that's why I
gonna,
wonder, like, what does Judge get? What if he was to trade Judge for two or three hitters on a team? What would make sense? Because if you're trading Judge to someone, they're competing too, right? Because they're getting Judge, so you
yeah.
have to kind of think of that. But to me, like, if you could trade Judge and just get three really quality bats back, I
Mhm.
mean that to me makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, all three would need to be like upgrades over what he has because I mean, depending on who you ask, you're gonna get like guys are gonna be like, oh, well, I'll give you this guy and these two bench guys that aren't really better than Carlos Santana. Like you need an upgrade over Carlos Santana of his like 7 home runs, 29 RBIs. So like it doesn't do you any good to like trade for guys that are like at that level, like a Yandy Diaz or whatever it may be. But yeah, you're gonna need upgrades across the board. And like I don't think you
Like,
really
like
replace.
just for fun, would you do Mookie and Langford for Judge? Because I think that lengthens Peter and it makes your team better because you're getting Aaron fucking Judge. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like to me that's something I look at. Like maybe it doesn't have to be three, but like does Langford
If
and
if
Mookie Betts?
Langford was expiring, I would.
Yeah,
But with Langford, his contract situation, I don't think I would.
right.
Um, I mean, would I do probably Mookie Betts, Brandon Nimmo, and Jack Caglione? Maybe. Something like
Well, that
that.
sounds like a Kyle offer there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I don't think I would. Yeah, not because of the yeah, it's mainly the contract. I think that Langford, and I think one of these days I want to do like list the top 10 assets, like a trade value chart of like in the league of what
Yeah.
you think that is, because I feel like that'd be fun to go through. I have Peter pretty low. I have Peter at number 9. You have me in lower.
Yeah, I mean, I got Peter at, like I said, I agree with you. I think there's a path, but I got him at 10. Like I said, the pitching can hold, it can stay, but it's the same old story with Peter. Any injuries, anything at all, he can't take another hit to his offense because he's got no depth. He cannot take a hit to his pitching because he's got no depth. So I got him at 10.
That there's a path, but I just don't trust him to take the wheel because I think he's proven that over the last couple of years
Yeah.
um, that he's not going to do what it takes to address the needs of his team in a way that makes his squad better and more balanced. So next we're going to go to Dave's team here. A couple trades in the offseason. He had a busy offseason, less busy since trade time. Since the season started. So he turned Correa into Keller, which has been fine. He turned Castellanos and Cortez into Nola. Not ideal for what Nola's been and that salary that went with it. That's been a
Yep.
big time net negative because when you keep that guy at that high salary and he doesn't perform, that hurts you a lot more than just the performance itself because it's the opportunity cost of what you could have spent on that salary. Then he traded Bybee and Gallen, got back Freeman, Machado, and Scherzer. Again, Freeman's been okay. Machado's been okay. Scherzer's been not great, but the salary was low enough that it's not going to hurt you too much. Just a lot of salary he took in here. He didn't really give much up because Bybee hasn't really been phenomenal. It's been just about average, and Gallen's been bad. So if you look at what he gave up, not much, but it's a matter of opportunity cost. Of he ended up keeping these guys that didn't perform at a level that they needed to perform at. Although
And
Freeman,
even the one there with Lopez, Severino, and Alonso, that one's interesting because Alonso's been amazing. Severino's still been pretty solid, and Lopez has been really good. So I think that's one of those that I think's kind of worked out for both teams, but for both teams needed it. So
yeah,
I think that's one of the trades that we haven't looked at it a ton that I think has kind of really helped both teams.
yeah. Alonso's been decent. 12 homers, 46 RBIs, 32 runs scored, and a 384 OBP. You take that all day. Certainly, probably a
That's
top.
decent. I mean, I said he was due for some regression just on his age. That's really fucking good, dude.
12 homers and
That's got to be
zero.
top five. That's what top five in RBIs.
It's
He's
12 homers
no, he's
and
not
four
on pace
steals.
for the
That's
third.
decent. Or 12 homers, no steals. You're not going to get more out of decent from me. I don't think
Oh,
he's that. That's not even a $40 player.
well, I agree with that, but I don't think he is a $40 player,
Well,
is
yeah,
he?
so it's decent. That's what he is. He'd be a starter on all 14 teams, but he's not like a top 15 player.
Yeah.
Um, and then turning Jose Altuve and Hunter Green, I think that's pretty solid based on what we've seen from Jose Altuve, taking advantage of a little bit of the market curve there. So, I mean, yeah, we'll give I'll give him an A minus for the Hunter Green trade.
Yeah,
I'll give him
definitely.
mm, I'll give him a B plus for the Tyler trade.
And to me, he killed it on the trade with Jordan, getting Machado and Freeman. What did he give up?
But I don't like Machado and Freeman at their prices.
But what it does
And he
prices
didn't even
don't
keep
matter.
Freeman, I don't think.
Was that before the season?
Yeah, that was before the season. He didn't even keep Freeman.
Oh yeah, so it
He
doesn't
kept
matter. Okay.
Machado at 31 and does
And he kept Alonso, right?
7 homers, 27 steals constitute $31.
Yeah.
I mean, after the draft, sure, but
Dude,
like,
he's got 40 runs, so he's on pace for 100 runs, and he's got an elite OVP. Yeah, that's worth $30.
yeah. But he didn't give up really many anything from an asset standpoint. So I mean, sure, I'll give it a B minus because I think that overall keeping those guys was okay, an okay move, but not didn't really make his team better. That team didn't make his
Sure.
it made his team less worse, but it didn't make it better. If
I
that
think
makes
Dave is one of the ones that since he took over that team again, we've seen for the most part lives have been washes, but I think Dave has actually he's never come out bad in any of the trades
Yeah,
yet. I
it's a
think we can
lot of
say,
positive moves. A lot of moves in the right
yeah,
direction.
yeah.
All right, so looking at his team as a whole, this is a team that I do like. And you mentioned kind of the positive movements that he's made, and this is a guy that used salary, and we see big salaries in the offense here, and big salaries that are kind of not performing, but there's a very clear path to seeing how they could perform. I mean, if you look across the board here at guys that I think Alonso has a little bit more in the tank than he's even shown so far, given he's only got 12 home runs in a quarter of his season. That's only a 35 home run pace or so. I think he's got more in the tank than that. Machado, I think,
Yeah.
has a little bit more in the tank from a home run and RBI production standpoint. I think that Brian Reynolds has been really bad, and I think he's still going to be who he has been. I think there's more to come from him. Julio, we know what he is in the second half compared to the first half. He's been not so great so far, but he's starting to pick it up. Mike Trout's been hurt most of the year, and Ozuna's been underperforming as well for what we expect out of him. And across those are big names that I feel like have not performed at what they will the rest of the year. And so I feel like even if you have guys like Sal Frelick, who I don't love having in the lineup, but 11 steals and a solid OBP is not bad at all. And having guys like Torkelson, who's been pretty solid, Arias, I don't love in the lineup, but other than that, like this is a scary looking offense considering like he's been pretty solid so far. And this is a team that I don't feel like has hit its stride yet. So he's got his pitching is bad. We know this. He's 10th right now in overall roto. He is fourth right now in overall hitting points. But I feel like
Well,
he's
he's
got a lot
completely
of
punted a category two, so I think Roto he's not really too far in on because he's got zero saves.
yeah. The weird that you know the weirdest thing about Dave's team, in my opinion, is the fact that he has not had any closers in his lineup. He has had four starting pitchers all year. You know where he is in strikeouts?
Probably like mid league.
If you went seven starting pitchers all year, you better be first place in strikeouts with no exceptions. He is 10th in strikeouts, and that is absolutely mind-blowing to me. The fact that he
Yeah,
is
I mean he
not,
doesn't have a single dude. What has he got? One guy that averages a strikeout an inning.
yeah, Hunter
Okay,
Green, who's been hurt for a good chunk of the
he's
year, and
been
he
hurt.
didn't even have on his roster for most of it. But yeah, all these guys, and Weathers maybe, when it's all said and done. But yeah, it's baffling.
Yeah, and the thing with Dave's team too is, I mean, I had it as a close to playoff team to begin the year, and that's why I agree with you. But the crazy thing is, if you remember, I don't know how long into the season it was. It was about a month and a half into the season. He was the number one roto team.
Hmm.
Dave was for a little bit of a chunk of the season. Obviously, it's fallen off recently, but before the year, I had him at 7. I had him right there as a fringe playoff team. I think I had Phil at 6. I think I had Dave sliding right in there, very, very close. I think with his slow start, I do have Dave at 9 now. But again, I echo a lot of the same things you said, where I think this lineup plays with a lot of different lineups. I think it's solid. I think it's like you said, Alonso, Machado, and Neil Cruz has been really good. There are some spots where you might be able to get replacements, but this is by far there's a lot worse lineups than this. I mean, a
Mhm.
lot of worse lineups than this. So I'm not worried about it at all. In fact, I don't think he really even has to make a move or push anything. Like you said, even a Sal Frelick, when you mention everything else in the lineup, it doesn't really matter. Like it's like, oh, okay, that's your worst guy. That's fine. Okay. Luis Arias, maybe. Okay. You don't really want to have too many guys with that low of home runs. But pitching wise is kind of where the concern comes in. Like we mentioned, he's not getting strikeouts. He's throwing guys out there that don't really have much of a track record. Tyler Mahle, if he didn't have Tyler Mahle on his team, who knows what his pitching would be at this point, because Hunter Green's been hurt. You just mentioned he didn't really get all the innings from Hunter Green. So really, who's been contributing for him on the year?
Mhm.
Not much of anything. I mean, this team, the pitching, I would maybe argue this is the worst staff in the league. I mean, it's pretty brutal, man. I mean, Hunter Green sure makes it pop a little bit more. So to think he was able to trade Altuve for Hunter Green, that's almost direly essential that he did that at this point. Because if he didn't have Hunter Green, I think it's without question the worst pitching in the league. I mean, obviously we got Aaron Nola on the IL, which doesn't help, but
Mhm. So here's the thing about Dave's team is like I think that his offense is frightening. I think it's a top three offense in the league. I think it's got a little bit of everything, and I think that if you take what his team has been so far, it's a team that I'm like this team has like the most room for growth of what I think it's going to end up being over the next couple of months. And then from the pitching perspective, I think that I like Hunter Green a lot. He's been really great. So in the innings that he's pitched. Weathers, I think I like, who, if you look at what he did in the second half of last year, if he can continue that into this year, could be solid. If you can get Aaron Nola back here in the next couple of weeks, and then Mally, if he's not going to keep doing what he's doing, but you kind of go from maybe regressing, maybe finishes the year with a 3 ERA if he's got a 4 ERA from here on out. Overall, pretty solid. I think that it's not good, but it's not like terrible either. Like you can you can tell me a scenario where it's like, okay, well, Hunter Green, Weathers, and Severino gave him quality starts, and McCullers and Malley and all that were just okay, and any given week, and Keller's just fine as well. I think he needs to add one or two pitchers just to like play a little bit more matchups. If he is going to have seven starting pitchers and they're not great, he needs to fill this bench. He needs to not worry about. He can probably drop like a JP Crawford and Joey Bart or someone and fill his bench with more pitchers to give himself more options. But you also have Scherzer waiting in the wings too, which you can't really rely on him to give you anything at this point. But I feel like
well,
there's enough arms here that he can like patch it together, and it could be like mediocre in some weeks, good in some weeks, bad in some weeks, and the offense will win a lot of weeks.
Well, and here's the tough thing about it. If he knew he was punting saves from the beginning, this is the tough thing about it. To me, as much shit as I give to closers, to me, if you're punting saves, you're in a sense punting roto. I mean, if you're completely punting a category the entire year, you're talking 14 points. 14 points is a lot, right? You need
Yeah,
to at least be getting something from that in order to place in roto, right? So to
yeah.
me, he was almost completely going for the head-to-head route. To me, if you're going for the head-to-head route, you do get elite closers, which bring down your whip, which bring down your ERA. And you don't worry about the Ks and the wins quality starts. But what he's
Mhm.
doing is he doesn't have the closers. He doesn't have the Ks. Now he doesn't have the pitching. So now, from a head to head perspective, he better be winning four minimum five categories on offense every week, or else he's not getting shit all for pitching. So to me, if anything, for this team, Roto's cooked for him, right? He's thrown away a category. Weirdly enough, I think the thing that actually keeps him in it in a head-to-head perspective is he either needs to go out there and get pitchers that are just going to K people up, or weirdly he does need to go out and get closers, because when it comes to a head-to-head week, if you can win four categories on offense and then maybe take saves and whip because you got two dominant closers, there's two. Okay, now all of a sudden you're a dangerous head-to-head team. So I see what you mean with him being scary to play, but he's got to organize the team a little bit better, because that pitching, you're not winning any categories there at all.
I'm going to disagree. I don't think that that needs to be his approach at all. I don't think you need closers to be good in head-to-head because in head-to-head, it's not about what categories you win. It's about which categories are under your most control. So if this offense is good enough to win most categories and most weeks if it performs at its peak. Maybe he'd want one more base stealer here just to kind of lock in steals a little bit, to try and make sure that he never loses steals. But I don't think that just because you're going for head-to-head means that you need to punt or that you need closers because if he has seven starting pitchers, I would fill the bench. Like I said, fill the bench with starting pitchers. You're going to get at minimum 7 starts, at maximum 14 starts, and then you just play the matchups with your 2 start pitchers. And then if you have at any given week, if you have 10, 11 starts, if you have 3 to 4 2 start pitchers, plus your staples in your lineup, and you're going to tell me that any given week is going to have 10 to 12 starts in a week, he's going to win wins quality starts most weeks. He's going to win strikeouts most weeks. We haven't seen it so far, but we also haven't seen him have Nola, Hunter Green, and Scherzer at all, and or Weathers really much in his lineup to date so far. But then the ERA and the WHIP, that's a crapshoot. You can't having a closer doesn't guarantee you're going to win WHIP and ERA in any given week because they might only have 1 or 2 or 3 innings, and they might give up runs in the inning, they might not. Overall, in the year, it all kind of normalizes. But
I
anybody
was gonna say I do agree with that for the most part, but you more than anyone got um I mean, Jordan's strategy last year in the playoffs when it came to pitching a lot of those bullpen and closer guys ended up working because it was able to keep his ERA and WHIP down. So I think, yes, agreed. If you have a
if you
closer in there
have
and he
quality, if you know you're getting quality starts out of the other guys.
right, if agreed that like yes, your closer can suck and give up 3 4 runs in the playoffs and your ERA is shit, but traditionally yes, if you're gonna rock more relievers, your ERA and WHIP is going to be lower.
Having Edwin Diaz go out and throw 2 scoreless innings doesn't mean jack squat if you're gonna have McCullers go out and cough up 6. But on any given
Right.
week, any either team can have a Brandon Pfaadt performance of going out there giving up 6 runs on no innings pitched, or Jesus Luzardo performance, and that's going to flip ERA and WHIP for the entire week for either matchup for either side. So
Yep.
I think that ERA and WHIP can be a crapshoot. You can do everything you can to improve it and put your best foot forward. But I think in any given week, any team can win ERA and lose ERA, and same goes for WHIP. So I feel like ERA and WHIP are the crapshoots, but you guarantee wins quality starts and strikeouts if you go 7 starters with a bunch of matchups. And then you kind of go from there, and so that you hope to win the hitting matchup. So I think it can be scary if executed correctly, but you got to hope that a team, if you go up against them, that you can have like you have your studs getting 2 starts, and you can piece together 8 or 9 starts that
Sure.
kind of match up with Dave's in a way that's a little bit better. Um, all right, we got to hustle through these last couple because we are over 2.5 hours, I think, already. Because then the only way we know how. Dave, so I don't know if I mentioned this, but I have Dave actually as my number 4, right behind Dana. I'm a lot higher on Dave's team just because I do think that his team has underperformed and will get better from what it is right now. Right now, he's the 10th overall team, but I think his team is big time underperformed. So I think there's going to be regression in a positive way. And from this point forward, I think it's going to be our 4th best team.
Interesting. Okay, I think his offense has been about as performing as you can, so I don't really know how much more we can expect from it. So I got him at 9. Like I said, I think if he does the right moves here, he could get into a playoff spot since he's going fully for head to head. But I got him at 9, which to begin the year I had him at 7, so he's dropped a couple spots.
Yeah. All right, so it brings us to Chris's team here, who has not made many moves here. The only one is just the one from today, over the last 6 months or so, which is disappointing for sure. I know he says he's going through a little bit of a move here. Boys of Summer has not been a priority for him, and you can understand that a little bit, but we need a little bit more out of you here, Chris. And then with that, I mean, turning Yandy Diaz, he was a bench player for him. He wasn't really in his lineup at all, first base only, into JT Realmuto, who you like Realmuto as a $3 A and as an overall player. So do you like this move for him?
Yeah, like I said, I think for the most part, it's kind of just who do you like more from it. I like Real Muto, but again, it's just one of those things where Chris's team is brutal enough where I don't know if it's really going to do anything. It's just something we're not going to look at much from here on out. I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think it's gonna move the needle, but it gives him a chance at improving his catcher spot, who I think he had Alvarez and Keibert Ruiz, I think, in there at his catcher. And then if it doesn't work out, a $4 A contract, going forward, potentially maybe worth keeping if he finishes the year at 18 homers and 12 steals or something like that. And maybe it's worth $4. So overall, just unfortunately for Chris, it's been a little bit of a calamity for him. He has not, we knew the offense wasn't going to be great behind Bobby Witt, and having Bobby Witt only with 6 homers, 31 RBIs is certainly hurting him. He's gotten some contributions from Sheets and Ramos and Yelich, but it just hasn't been enough to move the needle for him. Just too many guys in here that have really hurt him and really underperformed, including Yelich. Actually, his overall numbers are better than I thought, with 12 homers, 10 steals, and 39 RBIs, 31 runs scored. Actually, not too bad at all. but he has the arms, the name values in Freddie Peralta and Garrett Crochet. And Dylan Cease, he needed a lot more out of him than what he's gotten. 4.66 ERA, 1.28 whip. That was supposed to be his big three. And then he's going to try to round it out with Canning and Schmidt and Palante and Weaver and Heel and whoever else. And it just hasn't really worked out for him in a way that's been competitive. So the offense has underperformed. Not enough names here, not enough bats. And then the pitching staff, he couldn't get enough behind Peralta and Crochet. I still think that there's like a little bit of a path here of a needle that he can thread because, I mean, at any given time, like we said, when you have Peralta, Crochet, Cease, and then you back it up with Duran and Munoz, you're getting tons of strikeouts. This is the best closer duo in the league. I'd take these two over Helsley and Hader based on what they've done so far. Overall
Interesting.
numbers. Based on just raw save total and ERA whip numbers, I feel like you kind of have to. And then if you have those three striking out a ton, Cease, Crochet, Peralta, you just got to figure out the other two. And he hasn't figured out the other two to really be like a top three rotation in the league. Kind of the opposite of what Dave has, but just yeah, unfortunately not enough from the offense here. And
Yeah.
it's hard to imagine what moves he can or would make. He unfortunately hasn't been in the around to make any trades that have moved the needle for him. So he needs to make some moves to improve the offense, but unfortunately, it's just not there for him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that sentiment's perfect. I think his pitching is actually pretty solid, and this is from Dylan Cease kind of struggling to this point. Even I went after him a little bit because I like Dylan Cease, but the pitching, like you said, Peralta, Crochet, Cease, Griffin Canning's even doing solid. Clark Schmidt's serviceable out there. You mentioned the closers, like the pitching, I'm really not worried about. Really at all. I mean, if he had an injury or something, sure, but I think that could be said for most of us. It's just the hitting. I mean, when you look at a lot of these big contracts, he missed out on all of them. Obviously, keeping Bobby Witt for 55 is a lot, but to me, when you start getting into that 50 range, we're talking like you have to be worth every penny.
Mhm.
And I'm as big as a Bobby Witt fan as you can get, but I just don't know if is 90 runs, 18 homers, 90 RBIs, and 60 steals. I mean, that's a very good stat line. Is that a $60 stat line? I don't think
Yep,
so.
no.
And I think he's in that same vein as kind of a Mookie Betts. You kept Mookie Betts because it just made sense for your team. Overall, is his stat line a $50 player? Probably not. So, and then you throw in
I wouldn't have kept
Vientos.
Mookie if he wasn't second base eligible for the record. I think
Exactly. Yeah.
biggest
Yeah. And
differentiator.
that's the thing. Bobby Witt's playing great. I don't think anyone would walk up to him and be like, man, you're having a down year, Bobby. But I just don't know if that's $55 worth. I mean, he's not doing, as we see right there, he's not doing the numbers he was last year. He's getting more steals, but he's not going to hit the RBIs. He's certainly not going to hit the home runs, and he's certainly not going to hit the runs. I mean, he's down on every
Mhm.
single one of those categories. So mix that with the fact that he spent 26 on Mark Vientos, who's been awful. He
Mhm.
spent
He
he
kept
kept
Simeon
Yelich at
30.
24, which is fine. He's been fine, but Marcus Simeon, $30 has been awful. So you pair Vientos, you pair Simeon, you pair some of these guys that you just kind of missed on.
Mhm.
The offense is just brutal. I mean, it's just bad. I think this is definitely one of the worst offenses in the league. I would only rank it a little bit ahead of um Jordan's or whoever was it Peters or Jordan's we talked about that was Jordan's strictly because of Bobby Witt. I mean, he's
Yeah.
got a superstar, he's got a name in there, but this is very much one of the worst offenses in the league. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, Ramos, I like Ramos. I like Yelich. I like Bobby. I like a lot of these names. I don't love who they're paired with. I think Chris has a long road uphill here.
Yeah, and I don't think Bobby Witt will be finished here with 18 homers and 90 RBIs because I mean, the last 2 years he averaged 31 home runs and 100 RBIs. So I feel like I have no reason to think that he's not going to, have a little bit of a power surge at some point here. But yeah, when you got Benintendi and Yastrzemski and Sheets and Vargas and stuff in your lineup, I
It's
think
just way too many bad names. Yeah.
yeah, with not enough stars to kind of supplement it, and it's hard to imagine a path of what he could do to really improve on that situation. You'd love to pair Aaron Judge and Bobby Witt together, but I don't see the pieces here that could even do that in a way because he doesn't have really the depth to back it up. So I'm not really sure what this team does, but it seems like the sell-off is kind of imminent with it, and maybe some of these pieces, what maybe Witt, maybe Yelich, maybe some of these pieces will net quite a bit in a trade, but that
And
kind
and I think he's in the same position as Judge. Justin is, and I think this is where he really needs to look at that because again, is Bobby Witt a $60 keeper next year? I don't care what he does the rest of the season. I just don't think that price tag is there. No one's been worth that price tag yet. No one's been $60. So that's where you try to maybe send him off to a team. Like you said, and I think some people get stuck in that. I think even you mentioned this in the trade deadline show last year. So I think a lot of people get stuck in the like, oh, if I'm a seller, I have to trade C's for A's, or I have to trade C's for you. No, you don't. I mean, you can trade Bobby Witt, who's at $55, who's a B contract, and trade him off. You can trade, Reese Hoskins, who's actually off. I mean, yeah, those are guys you might want to keep, but it's just one of those things where it doesn't always have to be perfect, but he needs to be in the trade market and selling some of these guys off for cheap keepers next year, no doubt about it. Again, even if Marcus Semien turns it around somewhat, maybe there's a playoff team that's going to say, hey, I'm going to take a shot on Marcus Semien. Here's a $2 flyer guy that has potential. You don't always have to get, and I think some people are stuck on this, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it when we get to the trade deadline show. You don't always have to get dynamite keepers. You don't. You can get the $1 to $2 keepers that fill out your roster. And I think that's what some people are going to have to start realizing.
Yeah, I think it kind of starts there. There's a lot of different ways to rebuild. There's not a cookie cutter way that it has to be done. A lot of different ways. We've seen a lot of different successful ways doing it. We've seen Jay have nobody going into the draft. We've seen guys that have a lot of money going in and hit on the right pieces, and then
Yep.
kind of create a year or two of good things. So, a lot of different ways to skin a what is it? Skin a sheep? Is that the? I don't know.
There you go.
But anyway, we're gonna move on to Phil. So Phil's had a couple moves this offseason. He was busy. He'll always pick up the phone. We know that, which is great, for better or for worse. Um, but this offseason, he turned Lodolo essentially into Muncy, which, he's going to get a D minus for that after seeing Lodolo actually was captain, is performing the way he is. He acquired Wheeler and Riley, and essentially, Wheeler and Riley, essentially. I think he kept Crawford for Langford and Baz. Overall, probably a net positive because Baz has been bad. And then Langford has been decent for what his contract is, but he was able to get production out of, or he was able to turn Riley into Freed, which is an A plus, and then he was able to turn Wheeler into Devers. So I mean, to turn Langford essentially into Max Freed and Rafael Devers is pretty great. Then he turned Singer and Doyle, who both underperformed, not been great, either one of them, and into Perez and Eovaldi, another probably A plus trade there because of how great Eovaldi's been, despite Perez not being great. Eovaldi, stellar, another kind of A plus here. Peterson for Eduardo Rodriguez is a wash, two bums. Singer for Sanchez is a wash, two bums. Then sending out Wheeler and Muncy, getting back Devers. So now we haven't really discussed this from Phil's side, but I don't really like this one. I'm going to give this one probably a D plus, just because, like I said, I feel like at the end of the day, with Muncy heating up, he didn't really trust Muncy enough to put him in his lineup, but I feel like at the end of the day, he's going to get 80, maybe 70% of Devers in Muncy, and you're not going to get 70% of Zach Wheeler and Will Warren.
And I completely agree with that. I think you hit it on the head there. I think Wheeler and Devers, we could argue, obviously completely different players, pitcher, hitter. But if you want to just say, hey, elite pitcher for elite hitter, fine, totally. Around the same price, fine, totally. But I think you hit it right there where Max Muncy's hitting in that lineup. And although he got off to a rough start, you even looked at his numbers earlier. They're really not bad. So I think overall you got to give this one to Chad. Although, again, Phil's had an abundance of pitching. So I see the reason for it to get the bat. I just wish he didn't have to necessarily. I mean, it would have looked better to me, Devers for Wheeler straight up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I'd have to agree there because, but I guess he wouldn't, he doesn't really need that trade though, because he has so much hitting depth and guys that probably should be in lineups that, I understand Phil just being willing
Yeah.
to part with one of those pieces there. So I don't hate the idea of the trade. I just don't think that's great value, but I think he just had to pay the piper here. It's like the pitcher tax is kind of what he had to,
Yeah.
the elite hitter tax, kind of what he had to pay here. And then, they turned, Perez into Yandy Diaz, which, I think from his perspective, the reason why I approached him about that is because like he has five catchers on his roster. We have been giving him a hard time about this all year. But to turn a guy who Salvador Perez, who has 12 runs, four homers, 26 RBIs, and a subpar on base percentage, into a guy, Yandy Diaz, with 22 runs, 8 homers, 34 RBIs, and a 281 on base percentage, like
Both pretty shit.
Yeah, it's the RBIs for Yandy Diaz, but I mean, it's when the position doesn't matter, when he doesn't need the catcher. I mean, why not just get a little hitting upgrade there? Because you're not going to keep
Right.
points at $9 next year anyway.
Oh, sure.
So I feel like it's whatever. Yeah, I don't think his team necessarily got better, but it's just maybe gives him another option to put in his lineup over. Looks like he did put him in over O'Hearn, or someone, or he benched somebody. It looks somebody. But as we look at this team here. Another team that's a little thirsty for offense. Acquiring Devers helps, but he's before that he only had one guy with double-digit homers, and it was Dansby Swanson. He still has the work cut out for him from an offensive standpoint. The thing about it here is like I kind of wanted him to keep the team together because I wanted to see what that pitching staff could do throughout the course of the year. But now when you subtract Wheeler out of it and you got Eovaldi hurt, who he usually spends at least one or two stints on the IL each year, the pitching's looking a little bit thin. I don't really trust Will Warren. Max Meyer has not been pitching well. Tanner Scott and Yarbrough in the lineup. I don't really know if those guys. I guess Yarbrough has been better, but Tanner Scott's not a guy you can really trust in your lineup right now, given his ratios. Class A has been pretty bad. So now it's just like he doesn't have the pitching depth anymore, really, to pull that kind of trade. And I don't think that Fried and Hunter Brown are going to be this good rest of season. So I should look at this pitching staff, and now I'm very underwhelmed by what I see here because I feel like Fried and Brown are going to hover back to being, not top five guys, but more like top 10 to 20 guys. And if those guys aren't the aces that they've been, and then you're rounding it out with Warren, Meyer, Yarborough, and Singer, I really don't like this rotation much at all, despite it being the top rotation in the league so far. And then the offense obviously isn't anything to write home about either. Very lacking from a power run production standpoint in almost every category. We it's his roto standings of how many points does he have right now in hitting? He has right now 65 pitching points and 19. So yeah, it's man, I really don't love it from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because the pitching was elite, and it almost was to a point, like you said. And I don't necessarily disagree with you. It's early enough in the season where you don't want to totally go with that mindset, but I mean it was so elite where at that point you just hold on to it and let it ride. Because does trading away the pitcher for the elite batter just does it balance your team out more? Sure, but does it give you those surefire 4 to 5 categories every week in the head to head perspective? I don't know. The offense is tough. I mean you're getting Jazz back. Obviously you're adding Devers now. Dansby's been pretty brutal so far, but the power numbers are there. Honestly, from a fantasy perspective, Dansby hasn't been bad outside of the OBP. There's just a lot of Arozarena is starting to pick it up. Garcia from Kansas City. This offense doesn't look like it's 19 points of roto offense. It looks like it's more, I wouldn't even say league average. I think it's a little below league average. But again, there are worse lineups, I think, than this, especially now having Devers and Jazz in there,
Mhm.
but it's certainly not good. I mean, it's certainly not one that you're worried about or you're scared of or anything of that sort. So I do agree with you. So, I mean, he's got some guys on the bench, Christian Walker, if he can get going, Alec Boehm, if he can get going. So I do think this team's got a lot of depth. It's got a lot of, I think it's going to be in the playoff hunt all the way through, but I also don't really see a path where this team can just be like, we're better than this either. I think the pitching was not an anomaly. I think his pitching is going to stay great, but it's one of those things like it's not going to get any better.
Pitching wasn't
You're
enough.
hitting, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really see this team necessarily getting any better. So I think he's almost got to tread water and hope his team just does well because he's right at 500. He's right there. But we talk a lot about paths on this show. I don't know if I see a path where like we're going to see more from his team.
I mean, adding Devers and Jazz will certainly help the offense in a way that, he's going to build those offensive stats up. But I think that the pitching is going to fall off. I really
Yeah,
do.
I do too.
I just think that Freed and, as the weather
They're
heats
not
up,
going to keep those numbers all year. No.
yeah, they're not going to sustain what they've done so far, and we're already seeing the clock strike midnight on Max Meyer as well. And he wasn't what he was at the start of the year, and so it was funny. I had a conversation with my dad like a month and a half ago, and I said, "Would you trade Max Meyer for Chris Sale right now?" And he's like, no, probably not. No, Max Meyer's a $1 A. Chris Sale's pitching poorly. And looking back, I was like,
Wow.
man, missed opportunity there because there's no way I would trade Chris Sale for Max Meyer now.
No.
Things considered. But here's it, like, and it sucks because like he's Phil's gonna be really frustrated to hear this. But like this is a team that needs to package together some pieces to make a move. But like it's not. I don't know if I think he's maybe probably asking too much, but like this is the team that actually has
No, you
the
don't say.
quality pieces. But like these are guys that should be starters in a lot of teams, like Ivan Herrera and Yandy Diaz. Like Yandy hasn't played well, but these are guys that could be catchers on some teams. Christian Walker and Caballero, like both those are guys that should be in lineup somewhere. Walker hasn't played well enough, and he's right to be on the bench. But even like Alec Boehm, I mean, these are guys that have underperformed, but guys that you wish some team should take a swing
Well,
at. And so this
well, the
is,
thing too is, I know we don't want to speak too much on next year because we're focusing on who's winning this year, who's winning this year, right? But we've talked a little bit about assets and about keepers and stuff. He doesn't really have anything he can dangle around to teams either that are out of it, like whether it
no.
is a Justin or a Jordan, and be like, "Hey,
That's
I
why he's
got
been
this."
such a tough trade partner with Justin. Because like he sent, I know he's sending a lot of offers to Justin, but Justin's like, I don't want any of these pieces back, and like
No,
I don't blame him because like yeah, what pieces in here? Like you say it next year that Justin decides to pull the trigger on a
right.
rebuild. Like, what does Justin
And
want?
that and,
Anything
and
next
another thing that people and I think sometimes it struggles with too is Justin's. Well, let's pretend he's selling right. If he's trading Turner or Harper or whatever, he might trade those guys, but the other team getting Harper and Turner, they're not necessarily, or whoever it might be, they're not necessarily going to trade away some huge piece of their team this year either because they're still trying to win. So a lot of it is trying to get like those flyer keeper prospects. And honestly, I just don't see it. Are you keeping Dylan Cruz at 15 next year at this point? No, probably not. You might as well just get him back for $4 or $5 next year. So okay, maybe Meyer if he brings it back together, but I just there's really no like, hey, take a shot on this kind of guy and let me get my team better. Again, I just don't really see a path for Phil unless he just keeps chugging away here.
Yeah. I mean, I could see. I mean, is this an Aaron Judge team? I mean, wouldn't it make sense to trade Devers with Christian Walker and Caballero or something? Or
I don't think that's enough.
yeah, uh, mm, yeah.
Like to me again, people got to stop lowballing. To me, you almost have to go Devers and Yelich.
He doesn't have Yelich.
What's that?
Yelich?
Oh, sorry, Devers and like Jazz. You need to do like Devers and Arozarena, and that might not even be enough.
Mm.
But when you're throwing in like two scrubs at the end of it, that's not going to get it done, dude.
I don't think Walker's a scrub, and
He is this year
Caballero's got 19 steals.
with with 2 home runs and 20 RBIs and 19 runs scored. Most people don't have that in their lineup
I mean,
unless you desperately need steals. You're not having that in
Jazz
your
was
lineup.
jizzing his pants all over basically what's his name? Chandler Simpson doing the exact the same thing with even
But
worse.
we're not talking about Aaron Judge being involved in the trade. You're talking literally. Think about it, Kyle. You're talking two bench players in Walker and Caballero, and then Devers for Judge. No wonder you don't get trades done sometimes. What the hell? Like that's bad.
Mm, based on how they've performed so far, yes.
Well, and but we're 60 games into the season,
I would still take the swing on Christian Walker. There's a guy who just year in year out 30 home runs and 100 RBIs.
and he's also 35, and he's on a new
He's
team.
34. And I think the year goes along. I think he'll figure it out in Houston and hit
But you don't think
hit balls into the.
you don't think Devers and Arozarena is a better offer for Judge,
Oh, I certainly it absolutely would be.
and that's what
I
I'm
think,
saying.
like you said, I mean, that's still probably not enough and still not enticing. But I mean, like if we're looking at Peter's team and it goes, I'm not going anywhere anyway, like with the current lineup, like and say like, well, if Christian Walker turns back into what he's proven to be the last 3 years, and between now and in the last 2/3 of the season, Christian Walker hits his normal 22 home runs, but from this point forward, hits 22 home runs and drives in 60 more RBIs from this point forward. And then you have Devers, who continues doing what he's doing and drives in another 70 RBIs between now and the end of the year and hits 25 home runs. Now you're kind of adding up just those two together. You're comparing Judge production. Then you add in Caballero bringing in 19 steals. I'm not saying it's enough, but I'm just saying like that type of idea. But I know that, seeing some of Phil's,
There's just no way you're going to get someone to take two bench players on, and then here's a starter
they
for
wouldn't be
Judge.
bench players for Peter. But yeah, not to put on somebody else's bench. No, certainly not to like.
Carlos Santana is better than Christian Walker this year. He would not start Christian Walker. Christian Walker would not go in his lineup.
That I will take from this point forward.
I mean, that's fine, but
You
you're
don't
not
get
getting
Levy
Christian.
stats.
But Peter's not making, and I get that. I totally get that. But Peter's not making that trade and immediately going, you know what? Christian Walker today is going to start turning it around, and I'm putting him in my lineup. That's just not how it works.
You don't acquire him unless you think that.
Well, yeah, but
Because
I
you're
mean,
correct. Based on what he's done so far, that'd be a silly trade because you look at
and
Christian
it's the same
Walker
thing
and
with the
go
other guy. I mean,
he's a bum.
Caballero probably replaces Rafael in his lineup. But other than
Yeah.
that, like that's it. I mean, that's
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just it's
Yeah, you
a
look at the line of work right now and it'd be like, yeah, it's certainly not enough. But if I'm a team that's in looking to add depth, like I think like some of these pieces make sense for Chad too. I think that Christian Walker is a starter for Chad.
I don't think Christian Walker's a starter for anyone right now, but I get what you're saying.
Um,
First base is probably one of the easiest positions to fill in fantasy
we have a
baseball.
lot of teams that don't have good first basemen though, if you look around the league.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um, yeah, I feel like if we go to, oh man, there's
And that's why I think the July show might be a little more will be fun too because maybe we can do a little bit of what would this team do for a trade because I think at that point another month and a half in there will be teams that are obviously out of it and we'll be able to look at it more from that perspective. What would you do? What would this do? So it'll be able to be seen a little bit more then. But um, I guess my question is, do you think some of these teams? I know you're always very against selling a little too early, but these bottom three teams, I really think are like right at that point where it's got to be time, pretty close. Unless they pull out 8-1 weeks the next couple weeks, I think they pretty much got to call it in.
yeah, it's getting there. So I think Goldschmidt is the starting first baseman for Bryce. Are you taking Goldschmidt over Christian Walker rest of season?
Yeah, I mean
I'm
honestly, you
um
you you know you got to remember too, dude, that Christian Walker's on a new team this year, a new environment, a new atmosphere. Isn't he? Where is he at? Seattle, right?
what Walker?
Where's Arizona, right? Arizona. Um, I
No, he's
mean,
Houston.
Houston. Sorry, Houston. Goldschmidt's literally in a better lineup, hitting in a good spot. He's you just said earlier he's a six category guy with his steals. Yeah, I'm taking Goldschmidt the rest of the year over Walker.
Yeah, I'm not. 'Cause I think Christian Walker is just doing the exact Trey Turner thing from last year of new environment of it's the jitters, it's figuring out like living up to the contract, learning how to hit in a new place, and like when the roof is open at Minute Maid Park, and he's just gonna keep hitting balls into the Crawford boxes there in left field. Um,
Maybe.
so looking across the league, so we have Josh Naylor. I'd rather have Josh Naylor, but I don't think it's that far apart. Josh Bell is the starting first baseman for Chad. Or no, it's Cronenworth. I'd much rather have Walker over Cronenworth. Nate Lowe is the starting first baseman for Krim.
I would take Nate Lowe over Walker this season, no doubt
Uh,
about it.
so far, what they've done, yes, but going
But
forward,
but
I'm
look at
taking
Nate Lowe's numbers the last few years too. He's a 20. What is he? A 20 homer, 80 RBI guy. I mean,
I want more for my. Okay, you just had 20 home runs and 80 RBIs. I'd rather have the guy that hits 30 home runs and 100 RBIs every
but he's
year.
not doing that. He's not doing it.
Nolan Shanuel for Dane. I think he's got Paredes there. And Josh Smith at third.
And I would
Um,
much rather have Paredes. Yeah.
and mm-mm.
Look at Paredes' numbers this year. I mean, they're good.
I would
I love
rather
them.
have Christian Walker from this point forward. You have Belly and Flores. Prematurely has Vinny P and Spencer Steer.
That
Uh,
one I might give you. That one I might give you.
Peter has Carlos Santana, and Chris has Reese Hoskins.
Who's been
Um,
solid?
and let's see here.
Matt Olson,
Yeah, and Bryce
Harper.
Harper. Yeah. I think that on at least five of those teams, that Christian Walker will be the best first baseman. I think he, Eric just dropped his computer.
I don't know, man. I'm hearing all this craziness. My shit
Yeah,
just fell.
that's a first.
Um, um,
I think
and
that
I see what you mean. I see what you mean that he might be better rest of season, but none of those guys are performing better than Walker right now. None of them.
correct, absolutely. I'm not. There's no argument there. His numbers are
No.
bad, but I think from this point forward, Christian Walker will be better than Goldschmidt. He'll be better than Josh Bell. He'll be better than Nate Lowe. He'll be better than Nolan Shanuel. He'll be better than Vinny P. And he'll be better than Carlos Santana, and he'll be better than Luis Arias all rest of
I'm
season.
sure he'll be better than a couple of those guys, but
And Cronenworth, all of them.
oh no.
But I digress. We spent way too much time on that, considering we're on hour three anyway. We got to move on to Tyler and Fast. So with Tyler, he's made four trades here, a couple in the offseason. Traded away Alonso Severino, got back Pablo Lopez, which kind of worked for him, but probably a net negative overall. He traded away Caminero and Gore and got back Olson. That's probably going to be a net negative for him, considering Caminero has basically put up probably better numbers than Olson. 13 homers, 37 RBIs compared to Olson's 12 homers, 31 RBIs. And then Mackenzie Gore's obviously been top 10 pitcher on the year, so that's going to be a loss. He traded away Vinny P to get Bybee, who is kind of a wash,
Yeah,
pretty bad. I'd
yeah,
probably rather have Bybee. Liked it at the time, and then traded away Rasmussen and Walker to get Albies. That's like four big L's here for Tyler.
yeah. I mean, I do think, like I said, the one with Dave where he got Lopez, where he traded away Severino and Alonso, we'll see. That was a pre-trade, but I do largely agree with you where he hasn't really won any of these. None of them have been super duper huge. Only one post draft, two post draft, right? Yeah, two post draft.
Yeah,
But
two. Yeah, I think it's two post draft. The Bybee one I think was actually before it. I think we drafted on like the 22nd or something.
no,
Um,
we drafted early March. We drafted early March.
so we have his team as it stands. This team I feel like is the very opposite of Dave's team. I feel like this is a roster full of people that have overperformed rather than underperformed, and I feel like this team is going to come back down to earth here
Oh, okay.
next couple of months. Yeah, I feel like there's some guys that haven't performed what they could, but I think if you take the performances that he's actually gotten from PCA, from Grisham, from Stowers, from Ben Rice, and from Perdomo, I feel like those guys are all having career years, and I feel like over the last couple of weeks we've seen them starting to come back down to earth outside PCA. But we've seen Grisham and Stowers and Ben Rice and Perdomo all not play what they were the first month, and so if those have been like the catalysts to his offense so far in this start of the year. And with those guys being kind of regressing back to being fringe starters, which is who they've been every year of their careers up to this point, I feel like it's not going to be a good formula for Tyler to have sustained success. Same thing with Noah Cameron. He's gotten good starts from him. He's not going to continue doing what he did last week. Pablo Lopez will probably sustain that. Ranger Suarez, I don't think he's a 2.72 ERA kind of guy. Bednar and Estevez will see. Estevez has been okay over the course of his career, probably better than I give him credit for. And looks like he has that job locked down there. And losing Burns, I think Burns might be dead. We'll see. It's going to make it hard for him to kind of maintain what he's done so far. So I'm actually a little bit more pessimistic on Tyler's outlook from this point forward.
Yeah, and I'm gonna swap. Not that it's a huge change, but I'm gonna swap Bryce and Tyler. So I'm gonna have Tyler in Bryce's spot here in a second. But I think Tyler's team's. I think Tyler's team's gonna compete. Like I said, I don't. It's kind of one of those teams too where I don't really see like a glaring hole, especially when you look at how people are competing. I do agree with you that maybe Grisham and Stowers and some of these guys and Rice come down a little bit, but they're also young players. I mean, these aren't like 32-year-olds that are just figuring it out. Perdomo, has a prospect pedigree. He's 25 years old. Stowers is 27. Grisham's. I mean, this could be them. Having that kind of breakout year. So even if a couple of them keep going with what they were doing, I think he'll be fine. I don't hate the offense. I don't think it's top of the league, but
Mhm.
Olson, Albies, Chat. I mean, we also got to remember Albies has underperformed. Olson's
Yeah.
underperformed. Adamas has severely underperformed. So the fact that Tyler is 46 and 33, and we think he's overperformed, when I think some of his best players have underperformed, I think if anything, it could be an even swap. Even if Grisham, Stowers, and Rice struggle a little bit, and Olson, Albies, and Adamas come back, I think overall it's gonna be pretty even there. So
I don't think Ohapi is
pitching
going to
guys,
continue his 30 home run pace. And I think that Willie Adames has actually performed what I expected him to moving to San Francisco.
really, I don't know. The power numbers is still a little low, I'd say, even though VP a little bit there too. But the pitching is really kind of where I'm a little nervous about because you did just get Pablo. I mean, you got Pablo Lopez and stuff, but after that, I'm quite nervous about the rotation. I know Corbin Burns, big name down there, like you mentioned. If it was Burns and Lopez, I'd feel a lot better about it. But with Burns going down with elbow discomfort, that's
Yeah.
super scary. And I
Mhm.
think honestly, just that in general has me lowering Tyler more than I think I actually would if not. It's just if this had Lopez and Burns, throw in Suarez, who's been solid, he's only got 36 innings. He's
Poor
finally getting
timing.
going.
Tyler
So
might have been a few notch. If we did this a week ago or even a day ago, Tyler would probably be a few notches up.
yeah, honestly. So the Burns thing is a huge way to be determined what's going to happen there because if you're telling me Burns is there, I would almost go and say I think Tyler's a guaranteed playoff team.
Hmm. I wouldn't
And
go.
I think the two differences me and you had in our rankings, and I'm sure we'll spit them out real quick here at the end. But the two big differences I think were Tyler and Dave, or Tyler and maybe was it
Dex.
Bryce? I can't
Dex.
remember, but Dexter, yeah. So Tyler and Dexter, we were quite a bit different on, yeah.
Hmm. So I have Tyler down. He's not gonna like he's ahead of Peter, but he's actually behind Phil for me. I have him at number 8.
Okay, I got Tyler at number 7, and I think preseason I had him at 10. So he's actually jumped up a few spots over the course of the season for me.
Where did I have him? I think I'd like to see more than you did all year. Yeah, I actually had him at 8 to start the year. So I moved from 8 to nope, 8 to 8. So I hit the nail on the head there with
Hey, I like your team, Tyler. I'm not a hater.
it, you have him yet. Now you have him one spot ahead of me. Congratulations.
I know. Hey,
So
hey
yeah,
man, we
I'm
got to pay.
ahead.
We got to butter him up a little bit. He's paying the pod, man. You got to, come on.
That is true. I don't give him the respect that he deserves. Buttering him up enough.
And he works.
Oh,
He
you're
works
doing great. I'm
like
proud of
some. I
you.
don't know if you've ever heard. He works like 100. He works like 150 hours a week, and he hates teachers or something like that.
Yeah, he has definitely does this. The respect does not go both ways. I receive his financial respect as reparations for his abuse.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
then
Exactly.
we have the Wahoo Maniacs. Justin, only 2 trades on the record here. Nothing since the season started. He got rid of Flaherty and Cronenworth. Got Harper. I don't think it's hurting them too bad. Flaherty and Cronenworth have been okay for their prices, but Harper has underperformed what we wanted him to be, but he's still an asset. It remains to be seen what we'll get out of him and what he will be in the future. And then to get Seager from Steele, hindsight 2020, I guess you'll give it like a B minus because Seager hasn't been great, but he's still a better
Sure.
asset right now than Steele is.
Yeah, I'll agree. Yeah, yeah. Not many trades coming from him, but I really do think I said it after the draft. This is going to be a team to watch out for in the next month and a half when we get closer to the trade deadline. He's definitely got some names he can trade off here.
Yeah, because you were pessimistic because you knew he had the name values, but you were always keen on him being a seller. I wasn't because I had him at number 9 in the preseason power rankings. He's since dropped down a little bit after seeing what is basically, unfortunately, like his entire roster shitting the bed. I don't
Yeah,
know how much else to what else to attribute to it because I look up and down the roster and I'm like, it still like isn't bad when you look name by name on what you'd expect from these guys. I mean, every single one of them has underperformed. I mean, Bryce Harper underperformed, only 8 home runs. He hasn't played in like a week, but also you need more from Bryce Harper than that. You have Josh Young, who's 7 homers, 4 steals. You need a little bit more. Matt Shaw, 1 home run. You expected a little bit more of an offensive breakout from him. Sent down, now brought back up. Trey Turner, five bombs, 16 steals is great, but underperformed. Adolis Garcia, big time underperformed. They've benched him. He's got a 256 OBP, 7 homers, 6 steals. Michael Harris, 3 homers, only 13 runs scored. And Corey Seager, only 6 home runs. So like I liked the way his roster was rounded, and I thought he had a little bit of depth, and I liked the players, and they literally all colossally shat on themselves repeatedly. So even guys like I thought were primed in good positions to be successful, like we said, JJ Bleday, who was supposed to be the cleanup hitter for the Athletics for a little bit, and then who's the other guy? Oh, Garrett Mitchell, who got hurt, but he was supposed to be the cleanup hitter for Milwaukee. Like I thought I was correct in why I liked the team. I just wasn't expecting his entire team to colossally underperform. Meanwhile, you had Shota Imanaga going down, that hurt, and then Jared
yeah.
Jones needing surgery too. So, like, if you add Shota and Jared Jones to this rotation, his rotation looks a lot different now too. And he'd have Jones and
And he's
Imanaga,
missed Strider all year too.
Strider and Ray. Yeah, and he just got Strider back. He's only gotten 14 innings from him. So yeah, it's just an unfortunate sequence of events that have kind of left him hapless a little bit here, but it's hard to blame him. I don't think he did anything wrong.
Yeah, no, and it's one of those things too where, like I said, he was one of the toughest teams for me preseason because I did kind of see the writing on the wall somewhat of this probably being a selling team. But I also said, if a lot of these guys kind of bounce back and do what they were supposed to do, this could be a dangerous team too. But obviously, it didn't work out that way. The injuries, like you mentioned, have been hurtful as well. To me, honestly, the big names that really have dragged them down are Garcia, Harris, and Seager so
Mhm.
far. Seager's been brutal. Harris has been brutal. And Garcia has been brutal. I mean, the OBPs, you can't have anyone in your lineup with a 256 OBP. He's got
Mhm.
another dude in there with a 263.
Yeah.
Harrison and Garcia.
Yeah.
Seager's been, like I said, awful. The worst year of his career so far.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Harper and Turner have actually been fine. This is actually arguably going to be one of Turner's best years of his career. I mean, he's on pace for 45 steals. He's on pace for 70 plus RBIs, and a pretty high on base percentage. So in the last 5 or 6 years, I would argue this is actually probably going to be the best year of his career. When you're looking at the last handful of years. So runs wise, I think he's on pace for like 115 runs, which I think would be a career high for him as well.
Yeah, it looks
100.
like it.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so I guess you look at the homers as the most glaring one, which is on pace for only 15 homers, which would not be ideal considering he had 21, 26, and 21 the last 3 years. But
other than that, everything else is higher. Yeah.
Mhm.
So turn and even Harper, yeah, the home runs are down a little bit, but the on base, even the steals, he's on pace for like 20 plus steals, which isn't really something Harper typically does. So career high, it could be a career high for him. So it's really just those big three names, I think Garcia, Harris, and Seager, that have just killed him on the season so far. But overall, I think he's got a lot to trade. I think he's gonna be the most interesting team to watch over the next month and a half on who wants to pull the trigger for these guys. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The longer you wait on C contracts, the less value they're going to have. Bryce Harper is going to have less value on July 31st than he is going to have on June 2nd. I mean, it's just facts. I mean, you're going to get more stats from him on July 31st, or from here than July 31st. So I think it's not like it's essential. Oh, you got to make a move now, but this team's not going to make the playoffs. It's not going to be in the roto competition. So he's really got to make the right moves over the next month and a half in order for this to work out. Again, even guys, this is what I keep saying, and I know we'll talk more about it in the trade show a month from now, but these guys might be traded by then. Even guys like Corey Seager, what I would do if I'm Justin is I'm going to a team that has a $1 or $2 keeper. Again, they can't be a huge contributor to a team because that guy's not going to trade him. But why not trade a Corey Seager, a contending team take a shot on him, and trade away a $1 or $2 keeper that I'm going to just keep this guy for next year. Something like that. I'm not even saying my team in particular because it's not something, but I would trade like a Kobe Mayo, a $2 top 10 prospect in baseball for Corey. I mean, what else is Justin going to get? I mean, seriously.
Going to get a lot more for Corey Seager than a guy who has proven that he can't hit major league pitching in his entire career.
In 60 at bats of his entire career, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's
60
a
at
reason why
bats.
they haven't called him up, and there's a reason why they haven't kept
But
him.
I'm just, and again, I'm not even saying that that's got to be a trade, but those are the things you have to think of because again, Corey Seager has been awful this year, awful. So it's one of those things where it's like you need to get something for these guys. You're not keeping Corey Seager at $40 next year, so I just don't know really what you expect him to like. Even a trade turn, let's say Bryce Harper, he trades him July 30th. Okay, what do you realistically think he could get back for? Because if he's trading him to a playoff team's not going to give a huge contributor back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. A little
I mean,
bit.
let's look at your team just for fun. Let's look at your team.
I
Are
said
you
Bryce
giving a Jeremy Pena back for a Bryce Harper? No.
I considered it actually a month ago. I actually considered it for Seager like a couple weeks ago.
Right. My point, right? That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I personally don't think you're going to do it just because of how Payne is playing in the contract, but it's names like that you have to think of. I don't know.
He had a standing offer for me yesterday. That was I did offer him Woodruff and Nootbaar essentially for Harper and Adolis Garcia.
Yeah. See, and another thing, like this is just me getting crazy because again, I think these are things you got to think about. Does Chad? I mean, here's something. Just do you trade Turner and Harper? Say, you know what, I'm out of it this year. Do you trade Turner and Harper for like a James Wood? Chad's loading up. He's getting Harper. He's getting Turner. You know what I mean? Those are the things that I think you got to kind of start looking at a little bit.
That's kind of like why I like think that a trade primer of like, would you rather have James Wood for 30, or would you rather have Victor Scott for 1? Would you rather have a $30, like say a $30 contributor like Corey Seager for 40, or Bregman for 33? Would you have that for 33, or would you rather have a cheap guy for or a okay guy for cheap? I mean, there's let's say more than one ways to skin a sheep. I don't think that's what that's
like.
right.
If I'm like, for example, if I'm Dana, I would maybe do like a Jameson Tyon at $1 and a Brent Rooker at $5, who's a $10 player next year, and try to get like a combination of players from Justin. I don't know. I'm just really shooting and spitting stuff out here. But
Yeah.
again, my main point is the longer you wait on the season, the less value you're going to have because by July 30, if you're fighting for a playoff spot at July 31st, you might have a month of Bryce Harper, a month and a half of Bryce Harper. You can have a whole season or 100 games of Bryce Harper right now.
Yeah.
When you get to July 31st, you're down to 40 or 50 games of Bryce Harper. So Turner, again, you could keep, but who's keeping him at 42? I don't know. So I kind of look at him in the same boat. Adolis Garcia, someone, why not try to get a $1, $2 guy for Adolis Garcia? Someone's got to take a
Garcia,
shot
yeah.
on him, right? You
So
know?
I'm gonna air some tea for you here. I want your opinion on this three-teamer that I put together. I
Oh,
think it
God.
was like
All
two
right.
weeks ago. So this trade was declined by Phil, and it had let's see here. What was okay? Oh, here we go. All right. So it had Phil was getting. Oh wait, what was it? Yeah. Okay. So Phil was getting Naylor, Josh Naylor, Clay Holmes, Real Muto, Fairbanks, Chapman, McMahon, Pena, Vaughn. Um, oh, there was a different one here. I thought there was a different one. And then I was getting what? Now I'm lost. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay. So it was I was sending Justin Fairbanks, Barger, Woodruff, Scott, and Real Muto. I Phil was sending me Walker, Tanner Scott, and Salvador Perez, and then Justin was sending Phil Larnach, Corey Seager, Adelise Garcia, and Robert Suarez.
And what does Justin get? Let me see
So
again.
Justin for basically he's giving up essentially Seager, Garcia, Suarez, and Larnach. So really Seager and Suarez is 18 or $22 Suarez, and he's getting back basically from me Fairbanks, Woodruff, Scott, and Real Muto.
I mean, yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, you can look at some of those guys as cheap keepers going into next year, yeah. I mean,
And
like I said, I don't hate it, but
and then Phil's getting the upside and of Seager, Suarez, and Garcia to round out
right.
his
Yeah.
closing situation and his lineup there because he
But
needed.
this is like, for example, I mean, another one. I don't know. It's like I said, there's avenues to go. You don't always have to, like I said, it doesn't always have to be C's for A's or this or that because I think you could overwhelm someone with an offer. But again, it also comes down to how much are people really willing to spend for a month of. I remember it was a few seasons ago. I traded for Luis Robert like on the day of the deadline, and I traded like an A. I forget who it was guy for him, and I regretted it at the end because I was like, I didn't make the playoffs, didn't work out, and I gave up a keeper for it. So
Hmm.
again, it's one of those things like, yes, it's Bryce Harper. Yes, it's going to help you, but you definitely want to find the right deal. But at the same time, no one is going to give a surefire. Like I would not give up Roman Anthony for Bryce Harper right now.
I,
I just
I
wouldn't.
I
I mean, I just
definitely would.
and that's when I just wouldn't. There's I just the value, the
And it's worth
future,
more than
everything.
four in the
I just wouldn't.
more than bird in hand is worth more than two in the bush here. I'm getting all my
What's
idioms.
that?
I said bird in hand is worth more than two in the bush here.
I don't know. I've done really well with my prospects over the years with Adley and Ellie and all this kind of. So I'm holding on to Roman Anthony. But that's kind of what I'm getting at is
I feel like those are the well, that not that trade, but I feel like the trades like that are available later, like Kerstad for $3 Kerstad. Like I feel like that's available. Like that's at the deadline. You haven't got anything yet, then you just take the swing on that for the C dollar guy. But like I'm holding off until like there's a guy that I know I'm keeping for next year. Like that I'm gonna wait this out. And if they're like, I'll wait for the injured pitcher or the injured hitter. Like that's who I'd be targeting. I'd be targeting like cheap pitchers who are coming off Tommy John, Shane Bieber or the Bradish or McClanahan's or whoever else, like those guys. Or I'd be getting like in the next week, in the next month or two, there's going to be star players on decent contracts that get hurt and that are out rest of the year. Or even like if, God forbid, like Michael King or something, it turns out his injury is worse and he's going to be out another month or two. Then like, yeah, Michael
right.
King for 12, $17, whatever it is there. Then, that's what I'd probably be waiting for, some of those pieces. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you just can't pass it up. But I like, I don't know, a $1 Stowers and a $3 chat or $8 Chapman for 1 year. Like, I don't think I'm pulling the trigger on necessarily like those kind of pieces right now.
Yeah, but no, not necessarily right now, but you do risk the idea that Harper's value will go down over time. I mean, it just will. I mean, he's not going to get some surefire 100% bona fide keeper on July 31st if he waits that long either. I just don't think.
Alrighty, so our final power rankings here, our consensus rankings, we have so if you combine both of our rankings here, we have me and you at 1 and 2, tied for 1 and 2 here. Two for me, one for you, and the other way around. Then at number 3 we have Dana. Number 4 we have Chad. Number 5 we have a tie with Dave and Bryce. Which is not going to be a tie anymore, but that'll have to wait for next episode. Number 7, 6 gets skipped. Number 7, we have Tyler. Number 8, we have Dex and Phil, tied for 8th. Number 10, we have Peter. 11, Krim. 12, Chris. 13, we have Justin. And then 14, we have Jordan. And I think that just about covers it. Anything else we need to add here?
No, I think that pretty much does it. I think we're kind of at that interesting 1/3 of the way mark where teams are really at that fringe of selling or buying, and I definitely think the market. And we looked earlier, 14 trades were made between opening day and this very date last year, and
Mhm.
14 trades were made from opening day to this very date this year. So kind of interesting to see that play out. But I'm curious to see what happens, what moves are made, because last year it really did feel like there was more of an elite 2 or 3 teams at the top, and I don't quite feel that this year. I definitely
Yeah, I
think
think
me and
it's kind of
you yeah, I think me and you are definitely like in that upper tier, but I think really 3 through 8 or 9 is really close.
yeah.
So if anything, not to talk ourselves up, but me and you, I think, are a separate tier, and then everyone else might be the next ones there. So we'll see where it's at, but I do agree with you that it's a little bit more wide open. So I'm really curious where the trades kind of where they land.
Yeah, we shall see. All right, Eric, thanks for joining me and doing another 6-hour podcast. Uh,
Oh yeah,
maybe if they're more frequent, we wouldn't talk as much, but we'll see.
there
All
you
right,
go.
until next time.